Okay, next we will go to approval of the minutes. We have the meeting minutes of July 19th. Approval of the agenda, I'm sorry. Is there any amendments to the agenda, Mr. Manager?
Mr. Mayor, excuse me, Mr. Mayor, there's one item there that, well, it's been on all our draft agendas starting since last month, and it's been on and off, and so we messed up and left it on this time, and we intended to keep it off, and that is item D, 10D.
Okay, are any other amendments?
No, sir.
Entertain a motion to approve the agenda as amended.
So move as amended.
Second. Motion and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion carries. Next, we will go to the approval of the minutes, item 5A, the meeting minutes of July 9th, 2013. Any changes to those minutes as presented?
I have none, Mr. Mayor.
None, Mr. Mayor.
None, Mr. Mayor.
None, Mr. Mayor. Move for approval.
Second.
Motion and second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion carries. Next, item B, July 11th, 2013, special meeting minutes.
None, Mr. Mayor.
None, Mr. Mayor.
None, Mr. Mayor.
I have none, Mr. Mayor. Move to approve.
Second.
Motion and second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, the meeting minutes of item C, July 23rd, 2013, regular meeting minutes. Any changes to those minutes as presented?
I have none, Mr. Mayor.
None, Mr. Mayor.
None, Mr. Mayor. None, Mr. Mayor.
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion to approve and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion carries. Next, item 5D, the meeting minutes of August 2nd, 2013, special meeting minutes. Any changes to those meeting minutes?
I have none, Mr. Mayor.
None, Mr. Mayor.
None, Mr. Mayor. None, Mr. Mayor. Move to approve.
Second.
Motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion carries. Next, we will go to awards and recognitions.
It does seem dark.
At this time, it's my pleasure to announce that we have filled our Planning and Zoning Buildings Director, and I'd like to call up Martha Perkins to the podium. Welcome.
Thank you.
And welcome to our staff. We went through a vigorous process of recruitment, and by far, Mrs. Perkins was the top choice, and I'm honored to welcome you to the town of Taos. I know you've hit the ground running a couple of weeks ago, and I know you have a lot of work ahead of you. So thank you for choosing the town of Taos to be our Planning, Zoning, and Buildings Director. And I'd like to read your appointment. It reads as follows. Town of Taos appointed department head. The mayor and town council would like to recognize Martha Perkins, who has been appointed by the town manager as Planning, Zoning, and Buildings Director, presented at the regular council meeting of the governing body of the town of Taos on this 13th day of August 2013. Signed, Office of the Mayor. Welcome to the town of Taos.
Thank you.
At this time, I'd like to read a community proclamation for Back to School Day, encouraging safety when children are present. And it's something that we're doing to let the community know what we're doing as the town of Taos to embrace back to school. And it reads as follows. Proclamation, Office of the Mayor. Whereas the children of Taos will be returning to a new school year on August 19, 2013. Whereas the town of Taos would like to wish a safe return and reminds the community to be safe when children are present. Whereas the town of Taos, as an organization, is working on a back-to-school campaign, which includes testing of fire alarms at all schools, providing fire drills and fire prevention classes to students, and providing safety handouts at the children's library. And whereas the town will also ensure safety of our children by restriping crosswalks, repairing sidewalks, and trimming trees and brush to ensure signs are in clear view of drivers. And whereas we as a community love and cherish our children and want them to be safe. Now therefore, I, Darren Cordova, Mayor of Taos, do hereby proclaim August 19th, 2013 as Back to School Day in Taos. Signed this day, Office of the Mayor. So we encourage all citizens to please watch out for our kids and be safe.
Mr. Mayor,
Councilmember Silva.
if I may, over the last few years, on the first and maybe even second day of school, we've had some traffic problems. In fact, right here in front of on Civic Plaza Drive, and even on the road into the high school. I'm just wondering if we can ask the chief if he can have some additional staff to address those particular days and those locations.
Chief Weaver. Welcome to our meeting.
On Monday the 19th, for the beginning of the school, we have already planned to have additional manpower out in the morning, also in the afternoon. We're going to have a total of 4 officers just working the school areas. And then throughout the week, we're going to continue our presence just to slow people down and have a higher awareness. So on the 19th, we're going to do an evaluation to see how effective we are and if we're actually making an impact, and then continue from there.
Thank you very much, Chief.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chief. Okay, next we'll go to the Citizens Forum. I noticed that there are several individuals wanting to speak under several specific items that are in the agenda. If you'd like to speak during the Citizens Forum, you're welcome to, but I will open it up, although it's not a public hearing, those sections, since there is interested parties on those specific items, I will open it up to public comment so that the council can hear some concerns from the citizens. So at this time, I will just call out names, just call out individuals to see who wants to speak first under the Citizens Forum. Is there anyone that would like to speak under the Citizens Forum at this time? Sir?
I'll go second. I'll wait for this show. These guys know us together.
Okay. Mr. Northrup, welcome to our meeting.
Thank you. And one reason I'm not ready is one of the good friends of Taos who will be fine, but Trish Hernandez was in a rollover car accident this afternoon, and of course she's more a friend of animals than she is of people, but she writes a wonderful column for the Taos News, and it looks like she'll be released from the hospital today with a broken arm and other minor injuries. But anyway, we'll all have her in our thoughts. She's certainly a gift to our town. And so I didn't get my notes prepared, so I'll get through as best I can. The Taos Police Department, I'm sure at the direction of this body, is allowing violent vigilantes to roam our streets. I am constantly harassed and assaulted when I picket. My property is stolen every time I picket, and virtually every day that I put signs in front of my business, Southside Copies. Even chaining the property will not stop these people. They bring equipment to destroy whatever I've tried to do to secure the equipment. A local bar and restaurant seems to be the home base of some, if not all, of these criminals.
Mr. Northrup, I am going to stop you there referring to anyone as criminals.
All right, miscreants.
And if you don't have your facts straight, I'm going to move on to the next person that wants to speak. I will not warn you again.
Anyway, I urge this council to do something to stop this lawlessness that's pervading our town. And one of you has got to step up and bring this reign of terror to an end. Last time I spoke before you, I was thrown out before I was able to get my notes all read. And one thing I had given each of you was a 24-inch by 36-inch sheet of paper that reviewed the circumstances surrounding the hiring of Eddie Lucero as Taos Police Chief just 7 years ago this month. He lasted a year despite the glowing
Mr. Northrup, we're not going to discuss past personnel issues. It is inappropriate for us to hear past personnel issues under the Citizens Forum. Okay. Next person. Welcome to our meeting, sir. If you could state your name for the record.
Philip Alexander Econo, owner of Taos Motorsports at 605 Paseo de Pueblo Norte. There's a few issues I'd like to go over. First of all, I don't know if it's probably been brought up before, Your Honor, is the newspaper vendors on Thursdays. It's unsafe. I don't even ride my motorcycle anymore on Thursdays. The last time I did, I almost got in 3 accidents from the vendors running out into the middle of the street, stopping traffic to aggressively sell newspapers. Street vending is against the law in the town of Taos. Why is the Taos News able to get away with that? Why is not enforcement done on the Taos News vendors? I don't understand that. You know, my safety was in jeopardy at least 3 times, and I've seen other incidents where accidents happen right in front of the plaza, right there in Salazar and Upper Ranchitos, and other places within the town limits. Now, I live on Estes Road. At this point, there's a gentleman there that sits in the parking lot and sells newspapers, and people actually get out of their car and go to him and buy them. It's the only guy I see doing it right. But they're not. I don't know. How is enforcement going to be assessed to this problem, to this issue?
Okay. We will definitely look into that. If you can call the manager's office, that way we can look at the code that you're referring to and assess that and look at that.
Okay, and then what the appropriate enforcement will be taken by the police
we will,
department?
Yeah, we'll take advice from the attorney and look at our code enforcement and look at what specific issues you're having,
Okay.
and then we'll go from there.
Okay,
Mr.
second
Alexander,
issue I have.
Mr. Mayor, real quick, Mr. Alexander, Chief, have we seen an increase in traffic accidents or activity during Thursday's newspaper selling?
Yes, sir. Mr. Mayor, Council, to my knowledge, we haven't, and also we are starting in September, actually starting now, but I'm really starting to look at the traffic collision rates, the date, the times, everything else to get that data to really figure out what's happening and where it's going at. The gentleman is correct. I have seen issues with people, how they've been handling the newspapers, and we've dealt with them on an individual basis. To my knowledge, they've never been listed as causality in a collision, but also I've never really evaluated the data to specifically look at them. So we need to do that. September, we're starting with selective traffic enforcement, and we'll see if that's
Well, Chief, the guy in front of the plaza right there in front of the coffee shop actively walks up and down the street,
Okay.
in the middle of the street, impeding traffic.
Okay, so we'll look at it.
Yeah,
Okay, that's what I'm saying.
okay. My next issue is,
Okay, thank
Thanks,
you,
Chief.
Thank you.
my next issue,
Hold on one second. I think Councilmember Silva wanted to
Yes,
say something on that.
I did, and I'd like to
Okay.
actually elaborate a little bit. And I appreciate you coming forward, because I think more of the citizens need to come forward when they witness these sort of things. I, too, last Thursday, actually put a call into the mayor because of this very issue, and I asked him that we need to look into this. And here's while I was on the phone with the mayor, he can attest to this. I called him because there was a lady on Salazar and Camino La Merced that had rolled up to buy a newspaper. There's an older gentleman there, and bless his heart, he's there, doing what he can to make a nickel, and I understand that. But he's shuffling his feet, going very slowly. Apparently she must have felt bad for him, so she steps out of her car to meet him halfway into the opposing lane. Her car starts to roll backwards with her door open, and she almost gets trapped underneath there. She steps back into her vehicle to put it in park or the emergency brake on. Then she gets out and proceeds to go get her paper. That's when I placed the call to the mayor. When I'm driving up to Ranchitos in Salazar, there's a gentleman there that is selling newspapers. The car is coming across the street, Ranchitos, onto Salazar, and the car stops in the middle of the intersection, almost gets rear-ended by another vehicle, okay? I proceeded to come towards Town Hall, because this is where I was coming to, and at Civic Plaza Drive in Placitas, again, the vendor almost gets hit by a car. And that was all within maybe 5 minutes, and I was talking to the mayor at that time, and so I really do appreciate you coming forward. I think more people need to, and we definitely need to do something about this issue, because if not, somebody's going to get hurt, if not killed, Mayor.
well, what happened on Ranchitos Road with me and Salazar is they stopped in the middle of the intersection. I was behind that car. I almost rear-ended the car in front of me on my motorcycle, and then they almost rear-ended me. Let's put it this way, I could have went like that, and touched her hood. So it is a big concern to me.
Sure.
Because I avidly ride my motorcycle in the summer months. You know, there's no reason not to.
We appreciate you coming forward.
My second issue also has to do with traffic in front of my building, JR's old machine shop. I have actively people making illegal U-turns there. Now, I've talked to the police department. They told me it was a state issue. I talked to the state police. They told me it was a town issue. I want to know whose issue is it going to be, because there's already been 2 accidents on my lot, and there's been an accident there. A kid was texting and he drove off the other side. Now, I had the state put up pilings, but then the gentleman across the way had 2 of them removed so he can make an illegal U-turn into his property.
Okay.
It is clearly marked on the road where, with stripes. It's like if there was a concrete island there.
Okay.
And
So
that needs to be issued. I mean, you could set a cop car out in front of my property and write 100 tickets a day.
What we'll do
People
is-
on the cell phones, people making illegal turns. It is a terrible mess, that intersection, Placitas and Paseo.
What we'll do is we'll encourage, if you could give your contact information to the chief. And while it is a state road, we do have jurisdiction to enforce laws, traffic laws.
Oh, you'll make a mint there
so
writing
we'll-
tickets. I'm
if
going
you
to tell
can-
you that right now.
If you could please,
If you implement the program in Albuquerque of the cell phone usage of an officer being on the street and then calling down to the car down the street,
Yeah.
my God, we'd be in the black. I
Great,
guarantee
yeah.
it.
And our officer will definitely get our chief will
Well,
get the information.
third
So if
issue
we
I
could-
have,
if we could
and
wind
this
down
is
your
my
comments.
final issue. There was an incident at my shop, August 4th, 2012. I was verbally assaulted by an off-duty deputy sheriff. There was no dispatch officer to the incident, but Officer Zach Garcia responded. The video that was taken, I requested through the police department. They told me to go to the district attorney's office. Okay, I went to the district attorney's office after a few phone calls, and they gave me the video. Well, Your Honor, there's 36 minutes missing off that video, and the 36 minutes that it contains, and especially the first 10 minutes of it, shows Deputy Anthony Trujillo assaulting me verbally and threatening me.
Okay.
Now, he's a very close acquaintance with Officer Zach Garcia. I would like a copy of the full video so I can move forward with my thing against the county.
Okay. I will direct the chief along with the
Well,
manager.
I've known the town manager of seeing this video.
Okay.
And
So-
in its entirety.
So, Chief,
Now,
if you
why
can-
can I get one is a
Well,
big
Yeah.
question mark.
I'll ensure that the chief gets a hold of you and address that issue with you.
All right.
And if there's an issue, please let the manager know, and if I need to get involved, please let me know.
All right. Other than that, I'm done. And
Okay.
the biggest thing is the newspaper deal.
Okay.
It's a very public hazard.
Okay.
Thank you for letting me
Thank you.
speak today, council.
Thank
Thank
you
you.
for coming forward. Thank you. Okay, does anyone else in the audience like to speak at this time? Sir, welcome to our meeting. State your name for the record.
My name is Paul Figueroa. I'm the Vice President of the Taos Arts Council. Thank you for this opportunity to speak before the council this evening regarding the Taos Blue Line Historic Walking Tour. The Taos Blue Line is our working title for a wayfinding line patterned after the Freedom Trail in Boston, which is a red line created in the 1960s under the leadership of business and government. Since its inception, the Freedom Trail in Boston has provided hours of educational fun for visitors and residents and enhanced the retail commerce of the area. Last year, on September 29th, 2012, a Taos Blue Line appeared, which showed visitors how to navigate between the art sites that were part of the Taos Center for the Arts Quick Draw. Literally, a blue line was placed on the sidewalks of historic downtown Taos, about 1.5 miles of blue duct tape, and a magical thing happened. Visitors and locals followed the line, exclaimed about how fun it was to explore Taos this way, and they also visited several sites in which painters were contributing their work, painting and plein air, for the quick draw auction later that day. An air of adventure and exploration was created. Since that time, a committee of citizens has been meeting, representing not only arts organizations, but business, from marketing to commerce in the downtown historic area. And we have been trying to figure out how that one-day event might be expanded to enhance the historic district of Taos and to generate more appreciation for our historic culture, as well as generate more sales in the historic district and its 7 commercial neighborhoods. This year, under the leadership of Janet Webb, a grant was submitted to the Department of New Mexico Tourism, and part of that grant is to see if we can expand that from a one-day event to something that occurs during the Grand Fall Arts marketing campaign in Taos. It's a collaborative marketing campaign that involves not only the TCA and the ACD, but SOMOS, the Harwood Museum, and numerous other historic museums. And it also works with the Taos County Lodges Association and the town of Taos. So I'm here tonight just to provide you with information about what will occur this fall as we try to create our own Taos Trail through the historic district, featuring 11 National Register of Historic Places, numerous plazas, churches, and parks. It is our hope that we can see the Taos Blue Line attain certain objectives this year, measurable objectives, such as recording visitor and resident usage, and also enlisting businesses and cultural organizations to collaborate in dispensing information on the Taos Blue Line. We are excited about its potential, not only to enhance the historic district, but to provide additional monies through the tourist industry. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much. Oscar, if we could continue dialogue with this gentleman to look at the possibilities there. Okay. Anyone else want to speak under the Citizens Forum section? Seeing none, we will move on with the agenda and go on with matters from staff. Next, we will go to, as we presented this proclamation, the town staff will present its plan for helping to ensure safe return to schools by students in Taos. Oscar?
Yes, sir, Mr. Mayor. I'm very happy to present to you this year's plan for back to school. You recall last year we began this effort by just making sure that sidewalks, street crossings, the trimming of brush around stop signs and safety signs, et cetera, was our priority. This year we've expanded a little bit so that every department in the town has something to do, and you have in there that plan, including the executive department. There's not a lot of things that we can do physically for the school, so what we asked or volunteered to on the opening day to stand at the entrance to one of the schools, one of the public schools, so that we could welcome the kids coming back in. And by the way, with that, we've met with or had contact with Dr. Weston, and he was saying that Enos Garcia would be the school that he would recommend that we be at, saying hello to kids from 8 o'clock to 8:30 on the 19th. And so in that way, the town would be telling the kids, education is important. We're paying attention to you. This is a very good thing that you do. It's a very important thing to all of us. And so in that way, the town would be helping with the school's educational program. So anyway, there you have the list of all the things that the departments are going to do. And there's something even that our town attorney is going to do there. And so we're all complete. Everyone's going to do some piece there. So glad to answer any questions you have. We have put out a press release on this. And so it's something we're taking serious. Hopefully this will be a tradition. And again, I just think it's very important. And other communities have found that they get a big impact out of the kids understanding that the highest elected officials in the community all pay attention to what they're doing in school.
Okay.
Mr. Mayor?
Thank you. Councilmember Gonzalez.
If I could just state one, with regards to the Taos Police Department, and I know this is something we talked about last year with the Newton, Connecticut shootings, and I know we're hiring a lot of new staff this year within the public school department, and I wondered if it was possible through the local law enforcement agencies to also collaborate with the teachers themselves on what the process and plans are for those types of emergencies should they be encountered here within our local community. I think everybody always says never here, but we live in a different day and age. So,
Mr. Mayor, Mr. Council, as a matter of fact, last week we finished a mass casualty drill at Taos High School, and that was coordinated through the Enchanted Circle EMS. And that training is actually an all hazards plan, and in that event we actually were recreating the shooting in the school, unfortunately, but we also tied in fire department, the ambulances, and the whole process. So it's the first time that we've done that. I know that Officer Sanchez is actually working very hard with the schools. And unfortunately, this is the business that we're in these days, that has to be part of our training and part of our experience. And so we actually focus on that. Kind of choose the high school because if we're doing elementary schools, I'm kind of worried about parents and how they would feel about that. But once again, we're doing an all hazards approach. So we are focusing on that. And we need to continue to focus on that as well.
and with regards also, Chief, to the PSA announcements that come out with regards to, I know in the past they've had, minor incidents of bomb threats and, whatnot, just so that maybe there's a relay message or a relay point to the parents. That way they don't have, 200 parents showing up at the school. And I know that's been a problem in the past. So just a way, I guess, if you guys can address that and be that either with the Taos News, I know they do their text message blasts, something to just get the word out. I mean, there's times that there was bomb threats at my child's school, and I didn't know till he got home and said we were evacuated.
Yeah, that's inappropriate. Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you.
All right, thank you. Gentlemen.
Councilmember Silva.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I have a question for the manager. Mr. Manager, with regards to town staff helping at the school, in what capacity, or just to greet, or are we going to be helping with traffic control? And if so, are we going to make sure that they use safety vests in order to keep them safe? Have you given thought to these questions?
No, we're going to leave the traffic and safety control to the people who are specifically assigned those jobs. Our role that day would be just to greet the students and to generally get the message out to them that this is something that's important to us and that we're paying attention to them and that the town is behind them. It'll be about a half an hour event. If we find that the quorum is going to be there, we'll announce publicly that there might be a quorum there. But they understand it. It's just a very basic message to the students as far as that goes.
Okay, thank you.
Any other comments? Okay. Thank you very much, Oscar. Next, we'll go to item B, affordable housing for artists, presentation and update from the Housing Trust regarding location options and affordable housing for artists project. Oscar.
Yes, sir. Mr. Mayor, with this, I'd like to introduce Sharon Welsh and
Jamie Glosser.
Jamie Glosser, I'm sorry, from Santa Fe. They are with the Community Trust Foundation out of Santa Fe. They are the developers that we that we engaged this winter, actually, to try and get going a project that to create artist housing, or housing in areas that would be accessible to artists. You'll recall this is a grant that we accepted and matched through the National Endowment for the Arts. We were assisted in the selection of the developer by the New Mexico Municipal Finance Authority, and so this is one of the major initiatives we have for housing in town. There is another initiative that we've got going. In this case, we approached it slightly differently just because we thought it would just be a lot more complicated, and that is we engaged some consultants to help us get going with the Chimisa Verde that we have going. So anyway, what this initiative involves is selecting a site, putting together a package, and proposing the package in the next round of tax credit financing through the New Mexico Municipal Finance Authority in January. What Ms. Welch and her team have been doing is looking at different sites. I pointed some out to her, and she also scoured the community for possible sites that would offer the most points or make this project the most competitive that we could make it anyway, going into that January competition. And so this is sort of the first step. What we need to, at this point, is select what that site might be for this competition, and then move forward. And the next step after that would be a charrette where we would share with the community or take input from the community about what it would look like, so that we can get the package all ready and to submit by the January competition. Without further ado, I present Ms. Sharon Walsh, who will point out the sites and make her recommendations.
Thank you. I just wanted to recap a little bit about what our task was and what we'd like to see going forward from tonight. And our task was to do the site assessments, all preliminary activities for the ultimate development of an affordable housing development that would be accessible to artists who were low income. And we have a team composed of the Housing Trust, which is a nonprofit. We've been around 20-some years and have built around 700 units. So we're the developer. The architect is Atkins Olshan Shade, and Jamie Blosser represents the architect. She's the senior architect on it. And Crossroads Realty has provided invaluable real estate information and advice to us. And Mike Dempsey will help more when we get to the stage of costing out the proposed structures. But this is the site assessment stage. We've looked at over 20 sites collectively. I forgot to mention we have a market analyst and tax credit expert out of Arizona by the name of this Sabino and Associates. And they've done a preliminary market analysis that really helped to inform our decisions as well. And we've looked at over 20 sites, but we made a list of threshold items and eliminated 5 we knew that they couldn't go forward based on certain threshold items, like they were in a floodplain. And the real estate professional reviewed all of the sites that were listed in your affordable housing plan that you adopted, I think, a little over a year ago. And in the art space report that was done for the town as well. And then we asked him to also give us an inventory of suitable sites that were listed on the market at this time. And so we got to a total of 15 sites, which all of us reviewed. And we all look at it from a somewhat different perspective, and I guess the developer and the tax credit market analyst consultant probably has the most practical approach towards it. It's like, well, what will get the necessary scoring for tax credits and why? And but it's not an in-depth technical review where we take dirt samples and do a full geotechnical analysis on it as well. And that's a problem with existing structures because you really need a lot of studies on existing structures. We're working with a time frame that, we've devoted our window of opportunity for a tax credit application on this project, and everything has to be done and complete and in a refined proposal format before the New Mexico Mortgage Finance Authority in January. And we were sad to learn that that schedule's been moved up 2 weeks, and so there went all the holidays. And but we're happy to get the applications turned in. The market analyst took the work that was done by the previous parties and actually mapped and measured the distance to certain key features that are desirable to apartment dwellers and therefore are desirable to tax credit allocators. And so in order to qualify as a green built project, you have to qualify under various standards, and one of the harder ones but most measurable is the LEED standard. Our two most recent projects achieved the LEED Platinum standard, so we're kind of familiar with what you have to do. And a very green built project is intended to be an asset to the neighborhood around it, to the community around it. It's intended to be have less impact on the town and costs to operate over time, and to be most beneficial for the residents who will be paying their utility costs and so forth, and it will be very efficient. And so a project that a resident can walk most of the places that they need to go, like to school or to the grocery store, rank highest on those scales for the locational aspect of it. And you do have to meet certain locational points, and it's harder for a rural or small town project to meet those than it is a highly urban, big city kind of project. So we're kind of challenged all over New Mexico to begin with. When after each party reviewed it and ranked it from their perspective, at the same time, a preliminary market analysis was being conducted. And we wanted to know, we know that the project that is the most complete and has on-site management is approximately 50 to 60 units in size. It can be larger, of course, but it won't get tax credits for anything over the 60 units. And so ideally, from our perspective, the project would be 50 to 60 units in size. The market analyst tells us that the vast majority of people who are in the market for such affordable housing, who are qualified and in the market for it, are single-person households. That probably doesn't come to you as a surprise, but that's who they are. And only about 14% are larger families. And, of course, larger families, if they can afford it, have a preference for single-family detached housing. And so about 43% are are proposed to be one-bedroom or studio and one-bedroom units for one-person households, 43% two-bedroom units, which can be occupied by either. You know, if you can afford it, you may be able, as a one-person household, to have a two-bedroom unit, or a smaller household, a two-person household, can qualify for it. We gave all of our maps and photographs and more in-depth material. We gave copies to Oscar. It's on file there, but it gets a little cumbersome to look at 15 different aspects of 12 or 15 different projects. So for convenience, we narrowed it down to 15 sites and gave you a summary table about all of those sites. We identified the 6 sites that best suit our united criteria. Our criteria, if I can reiterate it, is location. We must have some points for location. It has to be close to schools. Being far out in the country wouldn't work for location. Land use criteria, the time it takes to rezone and perhaps change a general plan designation, makes it very desirable to have property that's already properly zoned. And site characteristics. A 4 to 5 acre site would be very appealing to us in this regard. It's impossible to get 50 to 60 units in a 2-story maximum framework on less than 3 acres or so. And finally, the cost to acquire and develop the project, we think, is very important to all of us, and to making and keeping the project affordable over time. When we do an affordable project as a nonprofit, we are looking forward to it being affordable in perpetuity. We want it to be as well built as possible and to be an asset to the community. And we want that. We don't really get control of the project until several years into it. We actually are the general partner who has day-to-day activities on the project, but it's owned by, it's 99.99% owned by outside investors. And, but the nonprofit does more or less inherit the project at the end of their tax credit, the period where the tax credits are useful to them. And that's 10, 15 years. But it has the use limitations on it for a minimum of 30 years, but usually 45 years. And so it's safe for 45 years in terms of affordability at a minimum when the application is made. I'd like to ask Jamie, who has a wonderful feel for the land, to discuss the projects. And we did like the project off of near La Posta Street best because it had all of those features. Its infrastructure was already in place. There's no lengthy period to do studies on a reuse kind of project.
Just to be sure, it's we know it here as the old convent site.
And it's exactly the right size. And of the ones that had a price or value placed on them, it was the lowest cost per per acre. But it's not to say that the stated price is the price either. So, Jamie, if you'd like to.
Thank you. I think I'll hold this so I can point maybe as I talk. Mr. Mayor, Council, Thank you. And just to go through some of the other 5 of the top 6 choices, there was another one right down here off Paseo del Pueblo near Paseo del Cañon, which is a very nice property. It's a good location, slightly further from where we are now, and but very close to school, offices, and retail. There were some perhaps cons to that in that it's a large property that would need to be subdivided. It's larger than we would need, and I think that we would need to understand how to subdivide or sell the piece along the Paseo del Pueblo that would be more commercial use. There's also quite a bit of grade on that site, and it was also a slightly higher cost per acre. But that was our perhaps our second choice, and we got very excited about the possibilities of this property up here, which is right where the roads fork near Spider Road and the gas station. It's a beautiful property, big tall trees, very close to the center of downtown, and we think really has some nice historic past related to arts here in Taos. But unfortunately, upon further investigation, that's not on the market. So I think that's a potential long-term consideration, but perhaps not where we are today. And we also did look at the Chamisa Verde site. Again, good location in terms of schools. For the purposes of the competitive tax credit application we're really looking for, it doesn't have those lead points. It's quite remote. And we think remote in particular, if we are considering artist housing, it's quite far from, relatively speaking, from sort of the center of things. But very close to some youth and family services. We also looked at a property here on Albright near the county courthouse, sort of behind the county courthouse, and thought that was a really nice property. There is even sort of this Rio Fernando running behind it. So initially thought there might be nice opportunities there. That the real difficulty there is there's a very high cost per acre, probably more than we can achieve with an affordable housing project. And then the 6th one that we absolutely love, it's just right across Paseo del Pueblo from where we are, of course, is near the Taos Center for the Arts and the community center there, which is sort of that back parking lot near the cemetery, which is just an ideal location, but quite small. It's only 1 to 2 acres, and so it really wouldn't work for the size of project we're looking at here. And so just a little explanation of how we've landed on this site near La Posta. Thank you.
Thank you. Any comments, questions? You want to continue? Okay. I'll get to you. Continue.
Well, we're happy to entertain any questions you have about our process or any of the sites now. And we would like to tell you what the next steps are. The next step will be to go into the actual planning of a site, and it's hard to do a layout without a specific site, and you can't do multiple sets of those as you need technical information to move forward on it. And if you accept this report or give us an alternative site that you may know its qualities better, then we would like to have our design charrette to get public input on the design of the property on September 7th, and we'll have that at the town hall across the way in the really big room. And is that the Rio Grande room? Mm-hmm. Yeah. And so that's what our next steps are. If we need to, we don't have very much time since they shortened the time frame for the tax credit applications. We're a little behind our schedule already.
Okay, let me get comments from the council, and then we'll have limited comments from the audience. Councilmember Silva.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. You mentioned that the time frame has been shortened, so you have approximately 4 months. Is that correct? So you mentioned somebody that happened to know as part of your team, and that's Mike Dempsey. And are you aware that he's actually moving to Michigan? You're aware of that? Okay, so I just didn't know if he was going to be able to help you from there.
Jamie knows him and is.
I just didn't know if he was going to help you cost estimate, put the cost estimates from his new location.
Yes, and that decision occurred after, he was brought onto our team, and I knew that that was a possibility. But he has committed to working with us or, helping us to find another excellent estimator.
Right, and the only reason I bring it up, just in case you didn't know, it would impact your schedule, so that's why I brought it up. Okay.
Okay, any other comments? Councilmember Gonzalez.
Thank you for the presentation. I did have just one question and I guess more direction from you guys. Being that we own the Chamisa Verde site, why are the lead points so minimal in that area, and what can we do to, for us it's ideal because of what it is, but number two, I've had reservations along the same lines that you spoke to with regards to single-family homes and the trend and the way the market has shifted away from that. Number two, in Taos, affordability on a single market home is, a single home is almost unattainable. So I guess those are my biggest question though is why the lead point, being so low in that area.
It would be as we mentioned earlier, locational points for lead are based on distance to certain points of interest like grocery store, schools, government, hospitals, medical services, and it's it's pretty far from the downtown central business district compared to the other projects. So I think it would probably, from its distances and over like a quarter of a mile, is not necessarily walkable. And so that means that it wouldn't get full points to begin with, but most of the sites couldn't get full points. We do like it. We have reservations and we'll have to cost it out. It doesn't have finished public roads on 3 sides of the property like an infill lot would. Mm-hmm. You get a lot of points for being an infill property. We were our last project was a complete infill property, but we didn't get full points for it because there was a field that was part of an existing use next door to us, but because it wasn't fully built out and utilized on every side, we didn't get all the points for that. So they're very, very particular.
And one of the other points for lead is also proximity to transit. So it's not just services, but also transit. And so that was another thing that dropped it down a little bit lower.
Councilmember Peralta.
If I could, please, on Chamisa Verde, though. I was looking at this thing. You said there's not the infrastructure there. All the utilities are in place in that property. The only thing you don't have is a finished road in, but if you were to use the east end of that area, you're, 200 feet from the highway? Now, I agree with you, there is no walking designated area because there's no sidewalks in that area. But I think that, some of the things you don't indicate here, for example, it's only, 0.3 of a mile to the middle school. Mm-hmm. The high school is about 1.2 miles. Your shopping is about 1.2 miles. So it's pretty much in the range of some of the other properties, probably not as great as the one that you're looking at for the old hospital property. But I think it has some aspects to it I think might have been missed, and I'm just trying to point that out.
We had a lot of affection for that site as the price seemed right for us, possibly. And, if we thought, it was, ultimately, I don't think that site could score high enough to beat the other competitive projects. It's not a bad site. It's not a bad location. And if we were going for the not competitive tax credits, the 4% tax credits, it would be a good site for that. It's just not infill enough, not downtown enough to get the maximum score on everything.
The reason I'm mentioning this is because I think that it should score higher than the property that you're looking at on Gustorf and Paso Cañon East. Because of the layout of that property, there really is no way to get sewer to it.
Uh-huh.
It's too low. And so unless you infill, you can't get to a sewer line on that property because of the way our sewer lines run in that area. And also, you only have one street access, and that would be to Gustorf, which is a similar situation that you have and with the Chamisa Verde area. So I'm just looking at those from your criteria and saying I think there's some disadvantage to that particular site that you don't have in a lot of the other sites that have very accessible utilities and transportation. And by the way, there is public transportation to Chamisa Verde on the area we're talking about because the Chile line does go up into that apartment housing that's there now on a daily basis.
Any comment?
Mr. Mayor. Loma Pardo.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
Loma Pardo.
Okay. Councilmember Abeta.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Ladies, thank you very much for a very informative briefing. When I look at your criteria, your evaluation criteria, whether it was weighted or not, and I look at price, location, the appropriate zoning, and of course the appropriate size, I believe the #1 ranked site that you have is right on target, and I fully support that. So thank you.
Okay.
Mr. Mayor.
Councilmember Gonzalez.
If I could just ask one more question. I know the 9% MFA tax credits, I mean, that's the ultimate up there. Now the offset would be the 4.5. Where would that put us with regards, I mean, I know land value is pretty insignificant when it comes to the amount of tax credit, but what could that do for us with regards to infrastructure tie-ins, water rights, everything that's also accepted as a whole as part of the project? Is the town in a position, I guess, feasibly, dollar-wise, to be in that more non-competitive MFA tax bracket to infill more housing here in Taos?
Yeah, and I take Councilmember Peralta, I believe he knows that site as well as anyone, and the infrastructure may be in a better position than I think. But I think that it's and the other aspects of it aren't going to add up as high as they need to for the competitive. And what I think the true difference between the competitive and the non-competitive 4% credits is how affordable they can be in the long haul. And the 9% credits seem to end up being the most attractive developments for neighborhood consideration and to have more kind of imaginative features and planning that go into them that maybe inspire some more outside subsidy. But the credits themselves, the 9% credits offer about a 60 to 70% subsidy for the development, and then the rules are so stringent that most of the income generated by the project is needed just for maintaining the project over time, or convincing people in New York that you're maintaining, that this income is sufficient to do that. And with the 4% credits, it's more like 20 to 25% subsidy, and that means that the rents, instead of being gauged at several different tiers, in our projects we have 30%, 40%, 50%, 60%, with the average being 50%. But in the 4% projects, they are looking for people whose incomes are 60% of the median income, because they need as much income as possible from the renters to pay the debt service, because it's not as deeply subsidized. And they usually aren't maybe as high quality in construction as the competitive projects. But last year, only 4 projects were selected statewide, and some years there have been as many as 6 or 7. It all depends on size of project and size of the request.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, any other comments, questions? I'll have some limited comment from the, sir, gentlemen, you want to talk on this?
Hi, it sounds like a fine idea.
If you could, sir, if you could just talk on here, because that way they can hear you on TV, so. Thank you. And just for the record, again, state your name for the record.
Oh, Philip Alexander Econo. It sounds like a fine idea, but I just have one question, or a couple parts of the question. Are you going to use local contractors to build this project and create jobs here in Taos?
We always try to the extent possible, but what the job has to be bid out, and we bid it out to general contractors, and general contractors bid it out to subcontractors, and that's where most of the jobs are.
Well, there's plenty of general contractors here in Taos County.
But subcontractors who can bond, and general contractors who can bond around them, and so forth. And so that's the long answer, is it's not ultimately up to us, and
Are you going to favor
we
it
try
that way,
to
though?
we try to recruit all of the known subcontractors in the vicinity that are of good repute and of enough are large enough to be able to handle a project of that size in the time frame required, and then to make the general contractor, to let them know in the bid process that you might check in with these people. Santa Fe is a much larger area, and in Santa Fe there are only about four different kinds of subcontractor firms that usually show up on the bid projects, and that's based on their size and qualifications.
How are you going to advertise these bids? Are the contractors here in Taos going to be able to have to go all the way to Santa Fe to do this, or are they going to be able to do it from here?
Well, I mean, it depends.
Ma'am, I think you need to do a little more research.
Hold
There are
on
plenty
one
of
second.
contractors here.
Hold on 1 second. So we don't. This is not a
No,
debate thing, but what I would encourage
I
you
still
to
haven't
do.
got an answer to my question yet, Your Honor.
Well, and I'm not sure if this is going to be the forum to get that.
Are
but-
you going to create jobs here in Taos with this project?
Hold on.
That's it.
This is not. She's not on
No,
trial here. So, yeah. So I would encourage you to reach out to her and find out what criteria you're going to use. And of course, this council. I think the council is all in agreement that we would hope that local contractors would be able to do this to stimulate our local jobs and stuff. So.
And if I could respond, we are very early in the process, as you know. And what we do as architects is we do reach out to subcontractors, and we make sure to always publish in the local paper, as well as the Albuquerque and probably even the Santa Fe paper. But we have had really great success. In fact, we have been doing an affordable housing project at Okewinge, just south of here, where we highly encouraged the general contractor to hire local labor, and as a result, he hired almost half of his crew from Okewinge. And so it's something that we are committed to. We think that housing is a real economic generator for a lot of communities, especially small communities, and so we would like to do our best to make that happen. We don't have any specifics, however, tonight, but that is something that we're familiar with and we'd like to encourage.
Mr. Mayor.
Let's go to Oscar, and then we'll go to Councilmember.
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, as Ms. Brossart was explaining, we're way at the very beginning of this project. It's sort of, if the project comes together and comes together in time for us to submit it for a competition in January, it competes, and there would be a small chance that we want to take advantage of, that it would win. And if it would win that, then at that point we start talking about how to build this thing. But clearly, to use a cowboy metaphor here, we're whipping a colt that isn't born yet. And so,
so Oscar, will the town be facilitating the RFP, or is it going to be a private contract? This entity contracting with a contractor, would the RFP process have to go through the town?
No, we're out of this. One of the things that I heard very clearly from the council is that we're not in the housing construction business,
okay.
And so that's why we got a developer to do this, and that's going to be their
Sure.
because they're experts at this. That's going to be their headache.
So this is very still preliminary. So, Councilmember Gonzalez first. Let me get, and then we'll go to Councilmember Peralta.
Real quick, Mr. Alexander, I appreciate the input that you give with regards to local contractors, myself being one in general, which I've obviously, as a local individual here, have bid on several large-scale projects with regards to affordable housing. And the one thing that I would honestly say that in talking with my fellow peers as contractors is that most do not care for the red tape that is involved with the project. So it's not to discredit the developer themselves that they don't use a local labor force or a local contractor. It's that there's several qualifications that disqualify them, and one of them being is the bonding capacity. And many of them they can't obtain it. They're not big enough. Their annual revenues aren't big enough to support the bonding capacity. So it's at no discredit to the developer. It's more lies within the contractors themselves. So I wholeheartedly support going after local business and promoting local business to the best that's within the capability. Again, we're on an affordable housing structure here. So again, the key word is affordable. And at what point does it become unaffordable? So.
Councilmember Peralta.
Mr. Mayor, I just wanted to point out that, because this is an affordable housing project that has federal funding and state funding involved, it falls very similar to what we would do and have to be obligated to do as a public entity in order to do things. And so it has to go out to bid. The most qualified bid is going to get the project, and those people who work with them are going to get the work. And if our people can be competitive, they will be working. If they can't be competitive, they won't be working, and that's just the way these projects are run. And because there are federal funds involved too, some of the requirements that they have now in housing is much more stringent than it used to be. So it's impossible to answer the question that was asked earlier at this point, but as we get later down the road, we can have a better idea of it.
Okay.
And thank you very much for your presentation, and I agree that one location, as Councilmember Opeta says, that is the best location to start with.
Okay. Thank you very much. Thank you for your time. Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Okay. Next, we will go to item C, consideration and approval of Resolution 1338, amending the Taos Police Pay and Classification Plan to eliminate the delineation of hours required for the certification for extra pay and in the pay and classification plan, and adopt standards of the respective issuing agency. This resolution also adds the phrase, all pay increases are subject to budget availability at the end of the document. Oscar.
Yes, sir, Mr. Mayor. With this, we're asking you to change our pay and classification plan. In that plan currently, we stipulate the number of hours that have to be spent to get each different certification. Let me back up a little bit. In that pay plan, the council has identified a list of certifications that if the employees achieve those certifications, then they get extra pay. And as we describe those things in that pay plan, we also stipulate the hours that they have to spend in there. Now, all those certifications are certifications that are achieved through independent bodies. They, from time to time, will change the number of hours and the methods that they use to impart or to grant those certifications. And so instead of every time one of those certification agencies on the list changing our plan every time they change their hours, we're just saying that our policy should say that whatever it takes, however many hours it takes to achieve that certification per the certifying agency, then that's what it is. And it's just basic house cleaning. As well as that last resolution, the way it stands right now, it can be interpreted that whatever pay is there is a right, a perpetual right, and we just want to make it clear to everybody that that achieves these things. It's like everything else with the town. It's limited by the town's ability to fund it from year to year.
Okay. What is the pleasure of the council?
Move to approve, Mr. Mayor.
Motion to approve
Second.
and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion carries. Next, we will go to item D, renewal of amended contract with Taos Sports Alliance, consideration of possible renewal of contract TT 1349 with amendments in the amount of $75,000 inclusive of gross receipts tax with the Sports Alliance for the management and programming of the Taos Eco Park. Oscar.
Yes, sir, Mr. Mayor. This is that contract that I asked the council give us more time to work with the Taos Sports Alliance and to update a lot of very basic facts on that contract. What we did last time, in essence, is just brought forward to you the contract from the previous year, and we're putting that in front of you. But a number of things have changed, including the understanding of the parties, both the town as well as TSA. And so what we did, we pulled it and spent some very intense negotiations with TSA. And what we came out of with that was a much improved contract. Both sides are here before you to recommend it. We have Brian Greer with us, who was our point person with TSA in the event that you need some particular detail about what was put in that contract. But if I may just summarize, what you have there is now a lower amount. Let me point out the major changes in that contract. The previous contract, the one you saw 2 weeks ago or 3 weeks ago, was for $85,000. This and included the maintaining of the field surface for some extra $10,000. I mean, included $10,000. The contract that you have here is for $75,000, and the maintenance of that field is then left with the town. Also, previously we had talked about increasing this amount so that TSA would be responsible for all of the maintenance of Echo Park from fence line to fence line. This contract does not contemplate that. That is going to be done as a separate contract. Currently, we've got a short list of bids for that work to be done for the next 60 days, anticipating that we're going to go out for an RFP, and then at that point award a year contract. And in that contract will be the maintenance of that field as well. So what TSA will be paid for at this point is just $75,000. They'll not be responsible for maintaining the field. Also, in the previous contract, there was no mention there that as to the town's intentions of funding this contract only one more year. I had mentioned to you in the budget process. I mentioned this to TSA, to our Parks and Rec board, and in numerous conversations to the individuals involved here, that it was not our intention to fund this next year at this amount. Certainly that was not going to be the town manager's recommendation. And so therefore we needed to do whatever was possible to help TSA become self-sustaining because we were headed to this scenario in the future. And so in the new contract, there is language that explicitly contemplates that the town expects them to be self-funded next year. Of course, we can look at revisit this from year to year, but the contract will then continue for several years without the town having to fund it necessarily. So those are the main changes. Of course, we took out all of the add-on language that was there last time. It was a bit confusing. Some of those things that the contract TSA is actually already doing as part of their original work, including, for example, the maintaining a website, et cetera. And so those are the major changes in the contract. As I mentioned to you, our point negotiator here, Brian Greer, is available if you have any particular questions you have on that.
Okay. Any comments, questions?
We recommend approval, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. So, Brian, welcome to our meeting. Everybody's okay with the contract language and where we're headed with this?
Mr. Mayor, Council, yes, in the discussions with the board of the TSA, they're very happy to go forward with the contract as it is. They really want to concentrate on their core responsibility, which is the promotion of the events and hosting of what they're doing there. Big NCAA event coming up this weekend, but the board is unanimous in their support of this, and the staff recommends it.
Okay. Councilmember Abeyta.
Mr. Mayor, thank you. Brian, thanks. Oscar, did you mention that your recommendation is to not fund this in the next fiscal year?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. That I'm continuing with the recommendation I made to the council in the budget process.
Brian, on behalf of the Taos Sports Alliance, the board, do they believe that they can become self-sufficient in one more year?
There was a great deal, Councilman, Mayor, there's a great deal of discussion around that on their board. And if I can just paraphrase that discussion, they understand that that's the directive, and they're going to do their best to get there. They're finding it very difficult with one field without the infrastructure that they've stated that they may need. And that infrastructure would have to do with the improvements that we hope to make one day. It would be fields 2 and 3, as well as the locker rooms, as well as a press box. So they're hamstrung, so to speak, with just one field. They have secured some funding from the County Lodgers Tax Association going forward, which is a first, and congratulate Mr. Pete French for pulling that together.
How much did they get from?
I believe that it was initially $6,000.
Okay.
$6,000.
From the association or the county?
The Lodgers Tax Board
of the county.
Of the county.
Yes.
There's also, Councilman, some pretty heady negotiations going on with major corporate sponsors. But those things aren't paying fruit yet. They're not paying dividends. But there's partnerships that have been created through the Rush Soccer component with Adidas and with Chevy. And Chevrolet is now a nationwide international sponsor of Rush Soccer, of which Taos now is part. So there's some very important and wonderful things happening, but to answer your question, the jury is out on whether they'll be fully self-funded in 1 year.
And Brian, how long have we been going down this road? 3 years?
This is 3 years. The contract, if you remember, originally started about $110,000 and then was reduced on this contract to $85,000 and now $75,000.
And Mr. Manager, we have how much money to date invested in this project?
Including capital projects, staff time, repairs, etc., we're well over $2 million.
Yeah, and I was thinking $2.5 million. So the only comment I'm going to say to that, Mr. Mayor, council members, and everybody, is that if the town's invested $2.5 million, because we have a game plan, and of course we're looking forward to the Taos Sports Alliance providing us a concrete, solid business plan, hopefully in the next few months, I would be leery as one council member just to say that we're going to truncate the funding next year. Now, that is the goal, but we still have to keep an open mind, because if we're not quite there yet, and now we've spent $3 million, why are we going to cut the hand that feeds us? So let's keep an open mind, let's work together, but let's keep moving forward and seeing how we can make TSA 100% self-sufficient. But I'm not just going to say that I, as one council, will vote to truncate you after this year. So,
Councilmember Gonzalez.
Brian, and I think to kind of echo the same sentiments as Councilmember Abeyta, a $2.5 million investment, and we're expecting 3 years for it to become self-sufficient, I think is a little premature in its infancy, especially because it's come a long way in those 3 years, but I don't think it's up to where it needs to be. So I too would have a hard time, allowing it to just fall by the wayside and become another tumbleweed field. It's not what I'm looking for, and I don't think that's what this council and the previous council that approved it saw when they approved that Echo Park. I think we have some diligence to do with regards to seeing it up and get it running. At this point, there's absolutely no way that we could ever, right now, and in the close foreseeable future, just being with regards to where GRT is at, construct the next field without the help of TSA, bringing some funds to the table as well. But at the same point, it's going to take some more development of their own infrastructure internally to make it happen. So I too don't think I could support it, Oscar, with regards to just cutting them loose next year. So it's something we'll have to entertain. I do recommend that they continue to work extremely hard to put the funding in place, but I think it's just too early in infancy to put that hammer down.
Mr. Mayor?
Councilmember
I'll make mine short and sweet, ditto. That's it.
Okay.
They've said enough.
Okay. Any other comments, questions? Okay, thank you. I just would highly recommend, Oscar, that we get on the plan to maintain that field as soon as possible, make that a priority, because throughout the summer months it's been infested with weeds and, you know, all the perimeters, and we need to really do what we can, whether it's contracting. If we're short-staffed, we don't have the staff to do that, we need to get a contract in place so that we can at least keep maintaining it while we go and get to that bigger picture.
Mr. Mayor, if I might, there are efforts right now to handle that, and the facilities director in charge of parks, Steve Kennebeck, has a bid that was due today at 5 for the short-term, immediate maintenance of the entire park. And so in working with the town manager, we expect that to run for at least 60 days. He does have a qualified bidder, from what I understand today. I don't know if he got more than one bid, but and then the very next step after that is to get a short-term contract so that somebody can get out there and start maintaining it right away, which will be a first for the entire facility. And then he's going to go out to an RFP to get somebody on a solid contract for the whole thing. So
I've been really close to just saying, hey, let's go and volunteer and do it ourselves. You just get anxious when you see that many weeds around there and stuff. So,
well, we've got college teams coming in this Saturday. For the very first time, we'll have a fall NCAA showcase. And if nobody knows, these are actually regular season games. The spring is a showcase, but these are actual regular season games. The teams that are coming have given up their home games to come here to Taos to play on our field, and that's pretty darn good. And it's spearheaded by the efforts of the people at the Air Force Academy, which is headed by a young man who was actually raised right here in Taos. So that long-term investment, Robin Grossman, who's in charge of that team, he's an assistant on that team, is bringing his team back, and that creates an anchor for other teams. So there is a lot of progress. It's going in the right direction.
Okay, thank
Mr.
you.
Mayor, Brian, if I could just suggest one more, and this is just an observation because I don't know what the legalities in the contracts are, but I would highly suggest that with regards to the NCAA tournaments, if we could get them a little closer towards the evening and make it less susceptible for these guys to drive back to Albuquerque that day, so we can keep them in bed that night. We do have lights on the field, so.
Well, Councilman, you know, I'm a hockey coach, and we start at 6 a.m. and go till midnight. I haven't been able to convince these guys to do that yet, but
So
if we could do that, we'd be all right.
I think part of direction, it's a pretty good trade-off with regards to keeping them here.
Okay, thank you. What is the pleasure of the council?
Move for approval, Mr. Mayor.
Second.
Motion and second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion carries. Thank you. Right.
Thank you, Mayor.
Next, we'll go to item E, resolution, consideration and approval of resolution 1335 approving the transfer to Taos County a 2002 Chevy Impala, a 1997 Dodge Ram, a 1500 4x4, and a 1995 Chevy S10 two-wheel drive pickup to Taos County, free?
Yes, sir.
See, it's good. We're working with the county.
Yes,
See,
sir.
we
We're happy. We're very happy to do this. We're happy to do this. Mr. Mayor, members of the council, what you have here are 3 vehicles that we would have come to you in the next meeting to declare surplus anyway. There will be another list that you'll see at the next meeting. These are items that we deem them to be of no value to us. Taos County feels that they can work with these still, and so we let them know about them, and they said that these that they could use these, and we are very happy to provide them to them.
And I did have the county manager, along with a couple of commissioners, thank us for doing that. So it's good that we're working with the county and letting them utilize some of the things that we no longer can use. You know. Okay, Councilmember Abeyta.
Mr. Mayor, I can't resist. You said it joking, but I'm dead serious. We are working with the county. One commissioner was quoted as saying it's a sad day in Taos. Look yourself in the mirror and ask yourself, Commissioner, are you doing what's best for the community? Look at the big picture. Don't base it on personal vendettas. personal feelings, but look at it based on your constituents and what's best for that community. So to that commissioner, the challenge is out there.
Okay. What is the pleasure of the council?
Move to approve, Mr. Mayor.
Second.
Motion to approve. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion carries. Next, we will go to item F, consideration and possible approval to create a new position within the organizational chart and classification plan of the town of Taos to assist the town attorney. This item is on the agenda because when we approve the budget, we can approve a budget with the position in the budget and unfunded. However, this last budget, it appeared not on the budget, so now we have to inadvertently create the position.
So moved.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion carries. Next, we'll go to item G. And I do want to make a comment on that. Brian, I'm glad that we're able to create that position. I think under your leadership, we'll be able to get a lot of stuff done that ties you up and doesn't allow you to focus on some of the bigger, major items. So we look forward to bringing on that new person.
Well, I do too, and we're going to make sure we get a lot of bang for the buck, trust me.
Sure, great. Thank you.
Mr. Mayor? Also, real quick, Brian, so when you start the vetting process, look for somebody just like you.
Councilman,
Well, maybe not just like you. Maybe not just.
Well, you know what I mean. Same manner and professionalism. Thank you, Brian.
I wanted a clarification. I almost thought he said that somebody that looks just like you.
My professional recommendation would be somebody sweeter
Yeah.
to level out the
plain
the other side. Yes.
Okay, next we'll go to item G, update in central communications to the new emergency central command center located at 1146 Gustav Road. Welcome.
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, if I may, just by way of introduction, I asked Ms. Adame and Mr. Caddy, gosh, I'm sorry, I want to say Caps, I'm sorry, to come back and give us a more an update as to where they are with the project. As you know, we give you monthly reports. The last report we gave you, there were a lot of things that were still outstanding, pieces to the schedule that were not complete, and so we have some of that information now. There's just a couple of things I do want to point out to you as I begin their presentation. They'll give you the details on a lot of this, and that is that really truly as the opening of the facility is imminent, but really truly that's a step we could very well have taken a year ago. I mean, 2 years ago, a year ago, several months ago, and you have directed that we be very, very careful and plot our way in a very transparent fashion, so that the community could see what we were doing, and so that we would give all possible opportunity to our partners to come along and to understand exactly what we were doing. And so now, as we get close to the final stages of this project, I just want to make sure that everybody understands that perhaps these are perhaps the most important steps. And so I asked Ms. Adame and Mr. Caddy to come here and run by you all of the exact steps that we're going to go to begin operating that facility. Afterwards, I've got a statement or a request, or I need to keep the conversation going a little bit, because I need to talk about planning for once we actually are operating there. And so I turn it over to Ms. Adame.
Thank you, Oscar. Mr. Mayor and Council, like Oscar said, we are here to give an update. We previously have been doing it once a month, and that's usually the second meeting of what's already been scheduled. But since our last update, we have some new developments, and we thought it'd be a good idea to update you, even though we are not scheduled to update the council until the meeting of the 26th. So, Mr. Mayor, council members, the last time we met, we let you know that we had a soft date of September 18th, that would be the cutover date, and that was primarily because we hadn't received some commitments from a couple of the vendors. Since that date, we have received some commitments, and we are tentatively scheduled to do the cutover on the 28th, so a few weeks after our deadline of July 31st. Just give a quick overview of the status of some of the tasks are that we have the furniture that's been removed into the Kit Carson Electric Co-op building. We have ordered the circuits, and they are to be tested on the 21st and active on the 28th of August. And the individuals who are doing the refurbishments to our consoles are scheduled to come on the week of the 19th and finish their refurbishments. They have already done some work on 3 of the consoles, and so they need the remaining 2. Last week, Motorola and individuals from Casidian were here, and they have looked at the call-taking equipment, and the configuration has been complete. Advanced Communication is going to execute the radio console move with the circuit move, which is scheduled in a few weeks. And when we first put together this PowerPoint, we were told that the security access would be completed, but to date, the only thing that is pending is the security for the elevator. And so this just gives a quick overview of what I've just covered. As far as what to expect on the go live date is, the cutover usually happens on Wednesdays at 3 a.m. So we are going to have both centers up. So we had 2 recorders, and since then one of the recorders has died. It's given out, but most emergency communication centers operate with 1 anyway. So we're having a loaner come in, and that's going to be set up at the current center, while the other, the one that was recently granted to us by DFA, is probably over a year old. That's going to be taken to the new center, and the cutover will take place at 3 a.m. So we'll have an individual, some of our staff report to the current center. So if I have 3 on a shift, I'll have 2 at the current center, and I'll ask that one report to their shift at the new center. And what happens at that point is everybody that's involved with the project is on a bridge conference call, and they start turning over the 911 circuits. So as one is up and validated, the other one that's at the current center will be shut down. And that will happen until all of the 6 circuits are up and running and they have been validated. Do I leave anything out?
Nope, you're good. Councilmember Peralta.
Mr. Mayor, Abigail, if I could, are we going to be adding any circuits in the new center? Because we had talked that, 3 of them are cell phone and 3 of them are hardline, and there was some concern that really wasn't enough circuits if you get overloaded on calls coming in for, on landlines or on cell phone.
Right. Mr. Mayor, Councilmember Peralta, no, right now we have only scheduled 6 911 circuit lines to be placed into the new center.
Okay. Thank you.
Sure.
Councilman Peralta, the trunk utilization, I studied it when I first came on board, and there really wouldn't be a need right now, based on your call volume that I saw, for additional circuits.
Especially since we're mitigating the 311 calls out of that.
Right. And so at the beginning of the project, what we thought it was we were just going to do a cutover and do kind of like flip a switch, and it was going to take place. But this is going to be, as Eric clearly pointed out, a methodical migration. So as we have, again, like I said, the current center, as that's shutting down the other one, or as this new center is coming up and is online and has been validated, then we will be shutting down the old center. So I am told that the cutover will take approximately 5 hours, so at 8 a.m. So the shift that comes at our shifts now, we have 3 shifts. So we have from 10 to 2, and then we have 2 to 6, and then from 6 a.m. to 2 p.m. Yes, I have 3 of those shifts. So the individuals that come in at 2 p.m., from 2 p.m. to 10 p.m. will all 3 of those individuals will report then to the center at that time, because we are expected to be fully operational. Any questions on that one so far? Okay. So I know I gave you a higher budget last time, and that's because we were guessing at some of the numbers for the recorders. After everything is said and done, I am expecting a few more figures from the IT and the Public Works Department, so I'm anticipating something around maybe $210,000 to $220,000. So some of the numbers that changed from the last time is that we did have to install an AC unit in the server room at the Kit Carson Electric Co-op building. And that number is $7,111. I received the actual number on Friday after this had already been posted. And then another one that changed is the circuit, the 6911. That's $82.68, and the original quote that we received was $12,400, but that's changed because they had originally quoted us on 9 circuits versus the 6. And then the biggest difference here is also with the movement of the recorders. We had anticipated that those figures would come in at about $12,500, and we've since received a few of those quotes, and the number we received was $3,650. So this is my projected budget to date, but I do expect that to change and increase by a few thousand.
If I may just point out here, and I would point this out only because it's been in the public discussion a lot. You notice that what's not in here are heavy structural changes or major, or really any significant modifications to the facility at all. So I know that was some concern that was voiced out there that they would, as a result of us moving in there, there would have to be all of these major construction projects. And at this point, you're seeing things like a new air conditioning system and security locks on the doors, et cetera. Otherwise, all that stuff is just the kind of work that you would do, to hook up, if you will, internal telecommunications equipment.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you. I have a question. I keep hearing from the county commission that concerns of we're moving old councils, and I understand that we're taking some of our existing equipment and combining it with some of the new equipment that we received from the grant of the state, and that they're digital versus our analog, and that their facility will be much better. And I've asked people that have mentioned that, well, show us, what do you mean? What do you mean by this digital capacity, and what is it exactly does that entail, and what are the benefits to having that? Do you know anything about that in their process or potential process of creating their own, that they will have much more state-of-the-art digital equipment that will be capable of GPSing vehicles? And I think that's what we ultimately want to do, and this added extra space that we'll have at the command center is going to allow for that. What is it going to take for us to get there? So that we could start planning from a capital standpoint, budgetary standpoint. What is that going to take? And what is this digital rumblings that I'm hearing from 2 commissioners and the manager and the county manager, not our manager, that this, if they potentially collaborate with us, that they would be, if they can get that 3rd vote to come in, which they're trying as we speak to get that 3rd vote outside of a public meeting, according to what I understand, that this would be a benefit because it'd be a win-win, and they would be able to use some of that money to put some of this, put this new digital equipment in, if you will.
We're actually talking about that earlier.
Mr. Mayor, thank you for the question. If I understand the question correctly, you're hearing comparisons that the equipment you're deploying today in the RCC may be outdated to some context.
Well,
Maybe it's
I think
analog versus digital.
There's some insinuation to that, yeah.
So in 911 call taking equipment, analog really, the system you have going in right now is all IP-based digital equipment. So there is no analog phone system going into the call center down there. When you're talking about the equipment that is being migrated down, the furniture, the actual Watson consoles, are being moved and refurbished. Abigail mentioned earlier, PMG will be back on site next week to move the remaining 2. The cost difference between refurbishing what you have there and buying new is probably $90,000 to $120,000. So it's a huge cost savings, and that's just physical infrastructure. That has nothing to do with the equipment.
Because Commissioner Blankenhorn specifically was mentioning the consoles are digital, and I understood that we were moving the furniture and refurbishing it, but so those aren't the digital pieces.
Your console, your call taking equipment is IP-based digital equipment.
Correct. I believe Commissioner Blankenhorn is talking about the receiver for the radios. We use an analog receiver now, and they're talking about going to a digital receiver.
Okay, Councilman Peralta,
and I think that's a question he's asking as to whether or not that we're archaic or we're not archaic.
Councilmember Peralta, he also mentioned digital receivers aside from digital consoles, and so I didn't know exactly. So I asked him, well, what basis or what information are you basing this question to me? And he says, well, I don't know. Our staff is saying that, and well, you know, show us some documentation of what you're talking about.
There's a lot of equipment in a 911 call center. So you have the call taking equipment, you have, as Councilman Peralta pointed out, the radio equipment. So you are running analog radio today, but that's not unusual. Once the analog signal comes in from your radio tower, it's being converted into IP traffic, and it's running digital on your network.
It's similar. I face that. You know, everybody's saying get a digital transmitter for radio. Well, but if it's coming out of your console analog and then converted to digital, what's the difference? So, what is the benefits, if any, for a digital receiver?
Councilman?
Well, I just, real quick, Mr. Mayor, with regards to the whole digital aspect, because I'm hearing the same rumblings that you are, and this was a question that we brought up at the last meeting, was with regards to like the text to 911, the vehicle tracking capabilities, everything that rolls into it. And, you know, once you start to research it, something I did was went home and started to research it more, was that while Kit Carson has the ability to GPS all their traffic with regards to vehicles, a private entity versus a government entity are two completely separate animals. So with regards to that, there's certain regulations that would need to be, I guess, perceived upon blessings, number one, from the FCC. Number two would be that we would need Verizon 100% on board also, because as you know, the city doesn't own a GPS satellite. So we would need major players involved, and it would take their infrastructure as well as ours to make that communication work. So again, with the text to 911, it's something that, you know, Verizon would have to turn on, or T-Mobile, any of these major carriers would have to flip that switch for us. And from my understanding, our board capability is every bit capable of initiating and taking that text to 911 as far as digital capacity, but that's not to say that Verizon and these guys haven't made the infrastructure, I guess, available here within our community to accept it. So I think it's a gray line in saying, oh, our board will do this. And, you know, the other question is saying, okay, well, have you talked to the big boys that control that?
Councilman Gonzalez brings up some good points, and that's kind of where I was trying to go to, is there are many components in a 911 system in its entirety. There was another one this evening that came up about emergency notifications in your community, and I let Abigail know. I mean, there's a system out there where you can mass notify and push notifications to your community called reverse 911. So the statements that I've heard you state, Mr. Mayor, somewhat ambiguous. I mean, they could, you know, without knowing the details.
So I couldn't understand them either. So I told the commissioner to reach out to his staff and get solid facts. What exactly do we have, and what are you proposing? And what are the differences? And I've been asking that question for a couple of weeks, and I haven't been able
My
to get
background coming from the vendor community before Kimball, I mean, vendors are always pushing for the latest technology, so anybody who buys a system today, they might be getting a little bit something newer than what you've purchased, but that's just the nature of the beast.
Sure. Yeah. Okay.
And Mr. Mayor?
Councilmember
Too many times people in general will use analog and digital intermittently, and they don't really understand what digital being is. A digital signal is basically a signal that has very discrete levels. For example, 1 is on and 0 is off. An analog signal has various levels. So many times people don't even understand what they're talking about. And I would argue that the commissioners that are talking analog, digital probably don't even have an understanding of what they're talking about.
Okay. Councilmember.
It's true.
I'm sorry.
Laugh, sir.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
I'm telling the gentleman that's laughing that that's a true statement, you know.
So, Councilmember, Manager Rodriguez. Sorry.
Sir, I promise you I will never have that title. Just a couple of things there, just to be absolutely sure. You heard mentioned earlier about the signals coming in from the tower. We mentioned to you the way we're connecting to the tower is via fiber. In fact, you saw some of the construction taking place out here in front on Civic Drive. That's a fiber that we put in there. Ruben was the project supervisor there, construction supervisor there, where we cut in the road and connected the equipment on at the police station via fiber to provide us redundancy, because there's already, through Kit Carson's network, there's already a connection. We wanted redundancy. So when Mr. Caddy here was mentioning the signal from the radio, what he's talking about is the signal from the cars, if you will, out there to the tower, and those signals then are transmitted to the 911 center digitally via fiber. And by the way, the 911 equipment that we have there is all digital. The state-of-the-art equipment of that kind. If I may, Abigail, stop me if I'm interrupting your at this point interrupted your presentation. But really, truly, then the next step from here is then to begin operating. I mean, there's a lot of things that still have to be put in place, and so I would just ask you not to be too surprised anyway if somehow the date here moves a day or two or even a couple of weeks, et cetera, because a lot of things still have to fall into perfect place for this to be there. But we're very close. Now, soon after that, the decision we'll be making, and we have not made very purposefully, so that whatever dialogues could be had still with the county could still be made, because the county has told us that they want to be the fiscal agent or take our place as fiscal agent. And at least there's that's an idea that even since this spring we were saying was something that we could recommend. But that decision I'm talking about here is the hiring of the executive director or of the director of the facility. And at this point, that director has been Abigail, among the many other duties that she has. And so with the center now functioning there, then comes the question of how then do we put it in place so that it operates now permanently. And one of those first decisions will be the filling of that very critical position. So anyway, those are the questions that we have to deal with soon after this. Up until this point, all the only information you have here is the technical information, just to make it physically possible for us to operate from there. But then starts the much grander exercise of then operating from there permanently, and then begin to put in the improvements that we've promised and we've been sort of holding back on until we actually move there. So anyway, I will be raising that question on the next item there, unless you guys have any questions at this point.
I just have a question, and maybe it is that their misunderstanding of the ambiguous nature is coming from them. Now, the receivers, we have analog receivers which are compliant current, will do the job. What is the difference in price for a digital receiver versus an analog receiver, for instance?
Mr. Mayor, my
guesstimate.
background is not in radio, so I wouldn't even really want to hazard a guess.
Sure.
Multi-thousands of dollars.
Okay. And what
I
what
could
are the
find out
benefit-
relatively easy, but
Yeah, and what are the benefits, if any?
again, not radio systems are not my background, so I can get that information absolutely.
But one thing it would require, and if you may elaborate a little bit on this, Mr. Caddy, but that would also require that we change out the radios on the police cars in order to be able to if you you don't just switch out the radio receivers, you switch out the radios that
It's
broadcast.
basically
They communicate,
the same in my industry. Is if you go digital, if you want to capture that, only if that car is equipped with that type of radio will you reap the benefits of that
Correct.
type. And at this point, we're not there.
Yeah, it's that argument of satellite radio.
Yeah.
Right, which is
Exactly,
what you pay
yeah.
for.
Yeah.
There will also be a lot changing in the radio spectrum in the next year. Nationally, there's a large movement known as FirstNet. The state of New Mexico is heavily involved in that project, and it is to take the National Broadband Safety Plan to basically create a digital nationwide radio network that's interoperable throughout the country. So there will be a lot changing on the radio landscape in the next year.
Whether or not we go digital or radio.
Correct.
Or,
But
analog.
it's a piece of information that if you start to have those discussions around radio, you need to be aware there are some major things happening nationally with regard to the radio systems.
So we would have to think very carefully about this, even if that equipment were given to us and say the only cost to us would be to change our police car radios, and so that should there be a change in the future on that, that change would come whether or not we have analog or digital radios. In other words, we might look really modern for a year or two, and then there would be another change, and they would be having to make that investment again.
Yeah. So the reason why I ask these questions is because I continue, per council direction, I am the manager, continue to work with the county to address the concerns and what will they take them to look at this favorably and get that support to move with us rather than starting a unilateral, another dispatch facility that's completely separate. It just doesn't make sense. So, I'm trying to understand these because somehow now this has become the issue. It's become, I got a call from one commissioner, for example, asking where the $175,000, and they're basing their opinions on a blog, an internet blog that is trying to derail this and state mistruths and say, hey, this is why they're doing that to bail Luis Reyes out. They're doing this, and clearly this has been going on before any of us were on the council. I don't think at that time any of us were on the council when resolutions were signed in 2004, where Gabe Romero signed a resolution, and also ex-council member Gene Sanchez signed a resolution in 2004. So this has been something that we've been looking at moving forward. So I would like to see if we can get just an analysis of how we're dealing with that $175,000, because I did promise the commissioner that we were going to, I would let him know how we dealt with that. That was given to the town. The state supported that. So if we can do that.
Glad to do that. We have articulated before. Mayor, if I may, one of the things I've contemplated over the last, I guess since this, we started working on the relocation in earnest, is because this whole process, as you know, I guess everyone knows, has been a long and very winding road. And so there's a lot of details here and there, including dates, including when decisions were being made. I know when I first came here, the direction from the council was clear, unanimous, and it was a top priority that we move. And as you explained to me, this is a decision that has been delayed for many years. And so one of the things I had considered doing, and I'd like to get your input at this point, is to actually maybe publish a recitation of the list of how the history went and how maybe with this final step the town is simply taking the final step in a very long road that it has been taking in partnership with partners who at the very end are stepping back a little bit, and hopefully after it's all said and done we all stay together. But I think that is very important. Certainly it's been always very clear to me that this is something that that you wanted and believe that this is something that should have happened a long time ago. So any input that you have at this point, I am considering maybe even just publish it in the paper, in the way we publish other public information, so that it's clear to everybody, when this started, how it started, along the way, all the decisions that were made, and why the town really truly is in the situation where we can't go back. I mean, these last decisions we're making here are really the last of a long series of very public, very costly decisions that have been made along the way.
I think that'd be a great idea, just to have everyone understand the facts and why we've made these decisions, based on the facts and studies that we've done in the best interest of our community, that clearly proves this is the right direction to go. In my conversations, if the county, I'd like to see if the council, or just let the council know and get an idea what your thoughts are. I think that the reason why I don't stop and give up on this as mayor is because it's so crucial to public health and safety that we have a combined command center. It does not make any sense. You talk to anyone in the field, it says that they say this is the worst thing we can do. As Council Member Peralta put it, not every county resident is a member of the town municipal government, but every member of the town municipal boundaries, but every town resident is a member of the county. We're a member of the county, and we need to, this is one area where we have to collaborate, 911. So I would like to know, what are the repercussions? I think we're going to have to prepare, because the last thing I want conversations on our dispatchers is, where exactly are you calling, so that we can respond, or do we have the county respond, especially when they're in duress and they need it's an emergency. The conversation should never be, is it our job or is it their job? And I believe that we're going to have some agreements in place, even though they have chosen to go to their own, because I believe that if you're on one street and then right across the street it's going to be town residents, there is going to be some of that overlap where they may track it and think they're in the town, but they're in fact in the county, and we're going to have to collaborate. So I would like to conduct a study if the final decision of the county is to go forward and create their own, to propose to the county that our citizens in District 1 deserve a study to let us know what are the repercussions, what are the pros, and what are the cons. We have done all the studies, and we have been forthcoming with those studies and presented them. This is why we're moving. And they have come up with, they listen to members of the audience that raise their hand and say, hey, we think you should go here, and they base their decision on that with no solid data behind that. And we need to know, what are you basing your decision on? And what is the effect to our citizens? Our citizens that live in the town, that go visit their families in the county. We want to know exactly that. And do we want to assist them in paying for that study? I mean, I think that it behooves us to at least participate in it, or at least be at the table. I don't agree with that. I think it's wrong for them to go on their own. But if they're adamant in doing that, then let's shift gears and, okay, then show us what the pros and cons are, so that we can prepare as a dispatch within the county on how we're going to deal with it. So, Oscar, I don't know, any thoughts on that? Of course, my priority is still to try to, lobby the county to it's clear, if they're looking at spending over $1.1 million, and they keep throwing the fact that we're going to have to be paying $33,000 a year to subordinate our portion of the debt. Well, if you do the math, simple math, $33,000 a year would never pay back $1 million investment. You would never pay it back. So it's clear that this is the right choice. We have done our homework. We have done in the interest of taxpayers. And, I really hope that the county can get the politics out of it and look at this, go back to 2004, why they signed these resolutions in support of consolidation.
Mr. Mayor, if members of council, if you're okay now, then with the presentation on G, if I may, then just quickly slide into item H, that picks up where you left it there, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you all thank you, Abigail. Thank you, sir, for your presentation.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Councilman.
With the very real possibility that the county would choose to go it alone and operate a separate 911 center, where Taos County would be served, if you will, by configuration of 3 PSAPs. This would be the 3rd public safety answering point in the county. There's one in Red River. We have one right now. And if the county goes with a separate one, then that would be 3. Under such a scenario, Mr. Mayor, I think that scenario would be complicated. We should plan for it. We should not anticipate it. We should not approach it from the standpoint of we'll figure it out when that happens. I strongly urge you or urge us to figure it out now, going into that, and so that if that then really does happen, we know what to do. And I say this only from the technical standpoint. I've shared these concerns with some of my counterparts in the county. And so with this next item, Mr. Mayor, I'm asking for some input from you about how we would go about getting some of that expertise. That expertise currently is not with the town. There's a lot that I have picked up over 30 years in this business, and a lot I've learned with this project, but I in no way consider myself competent to make the decisions and to come to you with a plan for how it would be that we would operate in a scenario with so many PSAPs. There's all kinds of questions that I have, both just basic technology, but also just operations. So, for example, if somebody from the county calls 911 to ask for fire service, we serve the town that provides fire coverage out in the county. How would that be switched over? Could it be technology? How would that be switched over? Operationally, how would we be operating so that the calls are missed and time isn't lost? And so what I'm telling you is that the staff needs that advice. And so one of the ways that we can get that advice is by broadening the scope or adding to the scope of the work that we've asked L.R. Kimball to do for us. And so I'd like to get your input. And by the way, before I turn it, get off of this, the reason I don't know if it's been made clear to the public anyway. I explained to you individually that the reason we chose Mr. or L.R. Kimball is because we wanted to get advice from someone who was not a vendor. Number one, was not a vendor, was not selling us technology, but 2, was not someone who grew up in the environment that in the Motorola environment, if you will. This is a very small world, really truly it is a very small world where everybody knows everybody. People who have been vendors then become regulators or state program managers, and those people sometimes become vendors and become consultants back and forth. And people who sometimes consult to you will also in the town next over will be selling equipment or be consulting to vendors, et cetera. And so we chose L.R. Kimball because they were completely out of this environment. Someone that we knew if we asked them, what do you really think, wouldn't be calculating, well, these are people that I might burn my bridges to, and I might not be able to sell equipment to or sell services to, et cetera. And so that's why we have them. And I'm thinking that we may want to add to our engagement with Mr. Kimball to advise us then how do we set up, how to help us come up with a plan to prepare for that scenario where the county is operating a separate PSAP. And I'd like to get your input from it. It can be a lot of work. I mean, this can become a much bigger contract, even than the one that they have right now, to help us, depending on how much work we have. It can also be just a very short, circumscribed consultancy where they help us, sort of take that last step to set up for such a scenario, or they can also be consultants to both us and the county, where we come up with a more detailed plan about how it would work. But we should do that now. We should not wait till it happens to then begin to figure it out. And by my calculations, anyway, and it's very likely that even if the county were to decide to go in a separate direction, we will likely be looking at still an extension of our JPA in order to facilitate that, so they can get everything in place to put all the equipment, hire the people, and then finally get going, et cetera. We could very well be doing that. And so I'm just thinking that we need that expert advice. So I'd like to get your input on that.
Okay, and I'll get to Councilmember. I also want to just take note that this L.R. Kimball has a wealth of experience in operating, actually hands-on, the largest PSAP in the state, and that is Bernalillo County, correct?
No, that was no.
That was the last consultant.
Yeah, that was the last consultant. That was Mr. Lake, Bud Lake. No, the reason we chose them is they have nothing in New Mexico.
Okay. Yeah, so no, this is L.R. Kimball. The other one was the prior one. So we've done. So you're the consultant that's managing the actual installation, and this was the consultant that told us this is the best options that you have.
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
Yes. Now, but you're right, Mr. Mayor. He was Bud Lake was going to be also the person that was going to help us in the relocation, et cetera. But he grew ill and is retired, completely retired, and was not able to help us. And so that's why we were sort of halfway in the process, having to look to somewhere else, and we decided to get somebody who had no contacts in New Mexico, so that he could give us totally unfettered advice.
Great. Okay. Councilmember Peralta.
Mr. Mayor, Oscar, I just have two questions. I agree totally that we're going to have to do this because there's going to have to be some protocols and some logistics set up if there is two PSAPs. But my question and my concern is, and I guess I'm going to ask you for this, and then I'm going to ask our attorney on the basis of meeting the criteria for why can't I think of words when I need to? But anyway,
contract.
First of all, how much do we think on the outside this would take in a budget figure? And then secondly, amendment to the contract, would that meet procurement based upon the size of this particular contract might be without going out for new RFPs? Because we need to do this sooner than later.
Yes. Well, if I may, while our attorney gathers his thoughts on the subject, it's a very big question. It depends on how much we would ask him to do. For example, if we ask him to, in essence, be the consultant both to the town and the county to come up with a plan that would allow both PSAPs to operate smoothly and to transition smoothly, et cetera, then it could be a very major engagement. And I wouldn't be afraid to put a figure to that, but assume it's an amount much greater than what we're paying him for this contract, to advise us with the relocation here. But it could also be a very small consultancy, in a matter of an extra few weeks, et cetera, where he only gets the best information that's available, et cetera, and sort of we get some basic pointers, and that's the best we can do. And the reason we might want to, that's the only option that we have, or the only reason we might want to do that is because that might be the only option that we have, and that is, it all depends on whether or not the county will engage. In other words, share with us the numbers that they have, the configurations that they're looking at, the basic decisions that they've come to, so that then we can sort of, if you will, plan up to those sorts of things.
But let's say, play the devil's advocate here for a little bit, in saying in order for us to ensure that we are properly covering ourselves in the event of a separation. Let's say, for example, the county comes back and says, this is the way we want to separate. And we say, no, that's not the way that is acceptable to us. In order for us to have consultants to assist us with that, we need to have basically a large contract that covers those possibilities with the ability to go in and say, no, we're not going to need that much based upon what the circumstances actually are. And that's where I'm trying to come from and saying, okay, do we have an outside figure as to what we need to put aside for that? And then secondly, can we do it without going out for a new contract with somebody? In other words, put it out for RFP.
Well, the outside figure would be something I'd be recommending that we go out.
This would not include a joint agreement with the county for the same consultant.
Yes, sir. The outside figure would be an amount that I would be recommending to you that we go out for bids and go a separate procurement for it. The shorter one would be something that we would be adding to this contract, and I would feel comfortable doing this. And I mean, somewhere, I don't want to put a percentage out there because I genuinely have not had this conversation with Mr. Caddy. Yeah, it could be a very large figure, or it could be a significant percentage increase in the contract that they have right now. It all depends on how far we want to go, and some of the trade-offs from that, just so it's clear to us. I mean, I've been trying to think about this now for some time, and each time with every day that passes, and the course from the county not changing, having to accept the reality that we might very well be there. But the kind of things that we would trade off, for example, is that it could be a very short plan that would tell us, look, this is sort of the kinds of things that you would look at, so that as we negotiate with the county, we just make sure that those questions are answered, for example, and we wouldn't count on his advice to help us answer them necessarily, but just to know what to ask, if you will, and maybe also point out some basic parameters, things we couldn't that we couldn't do, and things that are possible and not possible. All the way, it could start scaling up from there, Counselor, all the way to the point where that plan is backed up with advice at the negotiating table, and with also a plan for implementation of that execution of that very basic plan. I guess that's kind of where we're at. What makes it really hard for me to lay down a concrete recommendation for you right now is that I genuinely don't know where the county is with a lot of this.
And I appreciate that, Oscar. And clearly, my conversations with a couple of the commissioners, although the direction has been to move forward, there appears to be some movement to try to get that other vote to go with the town. So I would say, Brian, if we do it under professional services, an amendment to possibly, or an amendment to the contract to at least preliminarily look at where the county's at, and then come up back to the council. Okay, they are going. They're going. This is what we're going to need to do to assess it all the way, and then bring it back to the council. Can we have an initial directive to find out, are they going, and if they are, what is that going to take? And then at that point, we can engage with the county if they're willing to assist us in the cost of this. I think it behooves. I think the citizens deserve that. So would that be the direction that you would recommend, Manager, and would that be acceptable to the county, to at least the town council, to at least have allow the manager to engage with this firm to assess where we're at and what it would possibly take? Such an amendment.
Yes, I'll be coming back to you. I'm not asking you at this point to tell me that amount. I'll be coming back to you with the same item with a dollar figure on that. What I was hoping to do with this item is to get your input on that. Look, there's not a whole lot that we can add to our existing contract with before we do, as the councilman here was suggesting, violate our own procurement procedures. And it wouldn't take very much, in fact, to render any kind of planning here moot, because depending on what information the county has, for example, if we do a bunch of planning at this point, the county doesn't know yet a lot of those sorts of things, a lot of this work might very well be lost. Really, because at this point, the kind of advice I would be asking Mr. Caddy is sort of, well, look, what are the basic questions should I ask? What are the kinds of responses that could be deemed, useful, et cetera?
Councilmember Peralta?
Mr. Mayor, maybe let me ask you this question. Or I'm going to ask Brian this question. If we were to enter into a separate professional services contract, would the scope of work that we're talking about in this amendment be sufficiently separate type of work to qualify for a separate contract that would not violate meeting the maximum boundaries of what we could do?
Yeah, I would think so. This is a little bit of a tough question to answer, Councilman, because this is a moving target. I mean, I always start with the presumption that we're going to issue an RFP and then try and figure out if there's a way to not do that or expedite the process. So this is going to directly relate to what the change in the scope of work is, whether it's a logical extension of the existing contract or whether it's something different. My sense is it's something different. And then, of course, the size. I mean, I've heard low five-figure numbers for this, even less than five-figure numbers, which are a lot easier to fit into an existing contract without mission creep or scope creep. And then, you know, obviously once you start talking about tens of thousands of dollars, then that certainly militates towards a new RFP. But my presumption is that an RFP is generally necessary.
Thank you. I'm just trying to facilitate getting some preliminary work done in a sense, like you say, and then from that you determine what the major scope is going to be if that's necessary. And so if the separation of the scope of work is adequate, then we could contract without an RFP. But I realize that, you know, in safety, that's what you would do anyway, would be an RFP. But to try to, because this could be very quickly, you know, needed, yes, that I want to be able to give the opportunity for us to be able to respond very quickly without violations.
Plus, if the county sees a study, a comprehensive study that shows a lot of cons and maybe some facts, they may not want to go that way. I mean, or hey, maybe it'll show something different. But the bottom line is, I think the citizens deserve to know what the pros and cons are of a separate PSAP.
Mr. Mayor,
Councilmember Gonzalez.
the more we discuss it, the more it sounds like a bad divorce, you know, because of all the implications that are coming into it. And for me, I would highly, highly urge, because in talking with the commissioners, there is a consensus among two of them that would say that there's a lot more useful things they could do with $1.3 million and the additional $450 it takes to operate the facility, especially when there's one that's operating. The mayor pointed out that at $33,000 you would never hit the threshold of the $1 million loan repayment. So I would urge, I mean, we are all basically constituents of the county, and much like, you know, we've had plenty of public input, and I think the input, they have to do their due diligence on behalf of us, who's their constituents as well, to bring us, you know, burdens on them to make it show proof that it is a viable option and that this isn't just, sorry, lack of better words, a pissing match, because of the fact that we are all in this, and it is the taxpayer's purse. And you know, the county's coming out with the fact that they're in deficit by the tune of $250,000, but yet they'll find $1.3 million to operate their own dispatch center when one exists. To me, it just doesn't make any sense, and I know to at least one part of the commission, it doesn't make any sense also. And I think we've seen that 4 or 5 individuals have derailed the negotiations and the talks, and I think that's a complete bad way to go. And I would hope that the majority of the constituency base within the county as well, along with the municipality, were to speak out and say, look, I mean, there's got to be reasoning at the table beyond just the fist match that the 4 or 5 individuals cared to see. So that's my plea. And again, I hate to see it come to the circumstances of it look like a bad divorce, but at the same point, we need to make sure that, you know, our T's are crossed, I's are dotted.
Right. And just to let the listening audience know, and those people that are in the audience here, you know, everything the town of Taos does, we do it with facts that are presented in front of us. And in this case, we have studied this thing over and over and gotten various studies and facts and consultants on board. And we would urge the county to do the same and let us know why they're basing their decisions accordingly, especially when it comes to health, safety, and welfare. This is something you don't play around with. This is something you don't put politics in. And clearly, this council has done their due diligence. We have looked at it, and if I challenge anyone that says that the town is not going in the right direction, show us some facts. Show us a study that you've conducted, and I will be happy to look at that. Two minds are greater than one, and through that dialogue, but when there's ill intentions behind everything that they do, then all negotiations are off the table, and clearly that's what we see that's going on at the county. They're basing this decision, even up to last week, I had one commissioner call me and ask us if they would sell us the old dispatch center because they're considering that as a viable option. So clearly they have not studied this issue, and they have not really looked at it as serious as the town has looked into it. So any other comments, questions? I think we need to move on from this item. So do you want the town manager to engage and then come up with a proposal that we can consider, and we'll look into the issue of separating the scope and see if that matches under preliminary, moving forward under a separate professional services, and if it's warranted to go to an RFP, then we'll proceed that way. Is that okay with the council? Yeah. Okay. Thank you. Okay, next we will go to item 9, public hearings. Consideration and possible approval of Town of Taos Ordinance 1311, an ordinance repealing Section 508-120 of the Town of Taos Code in its entirety, effective upon passing of Town of Taos Ordinance 1312, an ordinance related to panhandling on public property. Oscar and Brian.
Yes, sir. Mr. Mayor, following through with your direction a couple of meetings ago, we then bring to you here the action to rescind, abolish, repeal the standing busker ordinance. As I mentioned to you, though, that by just repealing it, it didn't make busking illegal. It just the regulation that we have for it would just be abolished, and so therefore we needed to quickly put behind that an ordinance that would address the concerns that you wanted us to address, which is aggressive panhandling, or at least panhandling by another name. And so what we've done is at the next council meeting, we've advertised for the amendment of, or excuse me, the enactment of an aggressive panhandling ordinance. So you'll get that at the next council meeting. And so if you wish, you can pass this now, and for the next a couple of weeks, we would be, I guess, trying to do as best we can without an ordinance that regulates busking in any fashion, although we didn't think it was all that effective an ordinance to begin with. But or what you can do is approve this with or postpone it such that it becomes effective at the next council meeting, so that the new ordinance, the anti-panhandling ordinance, takes effect at the same time that this one goes away. So anyway, that's what we're trying to do here, so that there's at some point coverage on the activities that you have there.
And members of the council, I did. This is as a result of asking the plaza merchants to a meeting where Councilor Peralta and myself attended, and we're again basing this direction on actual facts, photographs of the concerns of merchants in the downtown area, where this in fact was turning into loitering / panhandling and other activities that shouldn't be held in the plaza. So this is based on actual photos that we saw that were submitted, and as a result, we put this ordinance in place. So at this time, since it is an ordinance, I would ask if there is any public comment on this ordinance to repeal this ordinance. Seeing no public comment, then I will close the public portion of this hearing and go to what's the pleasure of the council.
Move to approve, Mr. Mayor.
Second.
Motion to approve an ordinance to repeal the Town of Taos Ordinance Section 508-120. Motion and a second. Any further discussion? Since it is a public hearing, clerk, call the roll, please.
Councilmember Silva?
Yes.
Councilmember Peralta?
Yes.
Councilmember Gonzalez?
Yes.
Councilmember Beta?
Yes.
By the vote of 4 in the affirmative, none in the negative, the ordinance is passed to repeal the previous ordinance, and on August 26th, the next council meeting, we will have the ordinance that will be effective.
The aggressive panhandling ordinance. Yes, sir.
Well, if I might, Mr. Mayor,
27th.
The ordinance is prepared, which council has a draft of, not only precludes aggressive panhandling, it also precludes passive panhandling. So that's really the decision that the council has to make, is how far council intends to go. I mean, we got rid of this busker ordinance because it's really hard to regulate bad singing in a public facility. It just doesn't work. And this ordinance is borrowed almost, well, in large part from the city of Santa Fe. A lot of work on this. At any rate, where the rubber meets the road on the panhandling ordinance is the dichotomy between aggressive panhandling, which would be approaching, touching, those sorts of things, and passive panhandling, which is more or less sitting there with the sign saying, you know, we'll lawyer for food, or whatever the sign said. So anyway, the dichotomy needs to be decided by council, and it's prepared right now to preclude both. So I would just ask the council, when this comes up in 2 weeks, make that distinction and you know, make whatever decision you want to make based on the two sorts of panhandling that are precluded in the proposed ordinance.
Great. Okay. Thank you. And this next meeting will be, where this ordinance will be on the agenda, will be on the 27th of August, correct? 26th? 26th, okay.
Sorry.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
Sorry, Mayor.
Next, we will go to...
Normally, it would have been the 27th. They said we're moving it because of the municipal league conference.
Oh, okay. Yeah. And I would ask staff to make that meeting as light as possible.
You bet, sir.
Since we will be welcoming a lot of people to our facilities on that week. So, okay, next we will go to item 10A. As a result of that meeting as well, there were some concerns from plaza merchants regarding arts and crafts fairs on the plaza. So, item A, the town manager will present the results of a survey taken of merchants in the vicinity of Taos Plaza and recommend a response to the request by merchants on the plaza not to allow crafts fairs on the plaza. Again, this was a meeting, and I asked staff, along with Councilor Peralta attended that meeting. We directed staff to implement a survey, a mechanism, so that we can see facts from the business community, and this is what the facts yielded.
Yes, sir. Mr. Mayor, if I may, I'd like to just quickly get to the punchline here, and that is the survey results did not provide us a clear policy direction. What you're going to see later is some of the details of that survey, which, by the way, is online. Anybody can go download it. It's an Excel form, so that you can analyze it. It does have some interesting information in other regards that we're looking at. But the bottom line here is that what came back was something that doesn't give us a clear policy direction. In other words, it wasn't a landslide one way or the other. It's kind of in the middle, depending on what you call them. So real quickly, this was a survey that we did July 17th, well in the middle of the week, well after and well before any crafts fair or any major event in the plaza, so people would not have that last impression dominating. And so here's just the basic information. The survey went out to some 90 businesses. There were about 102 businesses in the canvassed area. And by the way, that area is everything facing Placitas from where it intersects Paseo going north, from Bent Street and everything that intersects Bent Street, and of course everything in the plaza. So not just we canvassed not just the people on the plaza, but everybody who consider themselves, and I've heard many times that they are plaza merchants. But we did it in a way that allowed us to separate who was answering, for which question. So, for example, there was a question there that asked, do you immediately face the plaza or not? So anyway, we delivered some 90 surveys. We got 48 back. Since then, the instructions to everyone were to please give them to us by Friday so that we could have a discrete date when we were checking everything. We got 48 surveys by that time. Since then, we've gotten a handful of other surveys that have come in through the mail.
And so that left us with some 53 extra copies, which we destroyed. And all the results, as I mentioned to you earlier, have been posted on taos.gov, both as a PDF and in its basic format, so people can analyze them as they want. Here's the survey instrument. It was a very simple survey instrument. All the questions covered a very different aspect. For example, we asked straight ahead, do you think this arts and crafts fairs affect you? And then we asked separately, do you think they compete with you, so that we could identify those people who said that they affect us, and they affect us positively, and so that we could get all that information. All the way down to how do you believe the maintenance has been there and the appearance has been there over the past year. By the way, those two questions we got a pretty resounding approval rating, that people feel that the plaza, both the appearance and the maintenance, has greatly improved over the last year. So if you were to look at, and I would just give you the next two graphs really just to summarize our results, if you will. If you were to ask everybody and include everybody that responded, all 48 people who responded, and ask them if you strongly agree or disagree or strongly agree that arts and crafts fairs affect your business, what you'll see there clearly, some 67%, 3/4 of the people agreed or strongly agreed that it affects their business. Now, if of those people, what we found that some 44% believe that crafts fairs compete with them. In other words, it affects them, and the way it affects them is it competes with them. So again, where the vast majority of people thought that it affects them, as you'll see here, just slightly less than half believe that it actually competes with them. And so going to the next one, if we just looked at the response from the plaza merchants themselves, people who responded yes to the question, do you immediately front the plaza? There's a significant change, as you would expect. Some 88% of the people there believe that crafts fairs affect them, and the majority, 60%, believe that those crafts fairs then also compete with them. And so really that's the summary. I mean, there's a lot more information I provided to you in the background, as well as what's online. Be glad to answer any questions you have on that. I did have a little bit of a chance to analyze this and other questions. And so based on that, I guess what we then come to you is with a situation where there is not a clear indication to go one way or the other. From our standpoint, just from straight ahead from an operational standpoint, there would not be a big impact to us one way or the other if they stay there or if they go to Kit Carson. I don't know what that would do to the crafts fairs business itself, but operationally it would not make a difference to us, one way or the other. If I may just share with you what we were intending, or at least I was intending to do to address this concern. I also heard the concern from many merchants there that the crafts fairs compete with them and that wasn't fair. And my plan was to have at this point counted on a strong arts and cultural district to whom with them I would have come to you at this point to reserve all of the times with a couple of exceptions, but basically reserve all the time on the plaza to them so that they could carry out cultural events. So by that means we would be displacing, if you will, crafts fairs there with other events. Because our objective, or my objective anyway, was to make sure that there's activity, that there's reasons why people go there. And short of cultural activities, then at least the crafts fairs. Well, as you know, it didn't go very well for us in getting an arts and cultural district at least at this stage that could pull that off. And so then we are then left with this, I think, unfortunate decision, which is just simply crafts fairs there or not. As I mentioned to you, from our standpoint, there's no effect. We would be happy to go either direction at this point. I don't have a plan to use that space for any other reason, and so that's the best information I have for you at this time. I'd be happy to
to work with a policy direction to keep them there, or to move them out, based on the information that we have here.
Okay. I know before we get to council comments, I did promise at the beginning of the meeting that I was going to allow some public comment on this. So anyone like to speak? It's not a public hearing, so you don't have to be sworn in, but I will allow some public comment as well. Sir, welcome. Welcome to our meeting, sir. You may sit down. Very much. Just state your name for the record.
My name is Jody Madden. Okay. Mr. Mayor, council members, staff. I promote a show that will occur in October on the plaza. 20 years ago, 24 years ago, when you were mayor, Mr. Peralta, we started promoting shows on the plaza. We did one show and then chose to move to Kit Carson Park for the rest of our shows. Since the council chose 3 years ago to stop our Memorial Day show and our Labor Day show, we did start to put one show in the plaza. Now, we get calls regularly from artists. We send promotional material out. One of the main questions we get now, which we never got before when we were in Kit Carson Park with Memorial Day and Labor Day, now we are asked, where's the show? Is it in the park or is it in the plaza? Most artists want it to be in the plaza. And most of the artists who do our show are from Taos. Not necessarily the town of Taos, but the region, from Dixon to Cuesta. Angel Fire, maybe one or two. But it's primarily that. We have participants that are from other places, Albuquerque, of course, Santa Fe, but it is predominantly right here. Now, the plaza is the town's. It's everybody's. It's not just the 48 or 53 businesses. It's all of ours. And it focuses people on the downtown. It brings local people downtown. Local people don't necessarily participate in the downtown or plaza region, except for maybe Fiesta or those special events. Well, this is another one. I'm really quite unused to these meetings, but I think that what I would really like is a consideration to keep it on the plaza or keep events on the plaza. Choose the way you would like to do them, but I believe it helps the town. For the considerations, however, to 1106, the resolution 1106, there are issues in there that were raised back during the beginning of this, and one of which has to do with, what is this study? There was going to be a study. I'm sorry, too much time?
No, you're good.
No, go ahead. Clerk, can you turn off that so we can listen to it? I'll use my timer here. So
there's going to be a study regarding the effectiveness or otherwise of arts and crafts shows to the economy of Taos. And I believe the procedure was going to be taking a look at gross receipts taxes for those particular periods. When the issue came up, I raised my question as to how effective that could be. Relative also to what I understand to have been brought up at the last town council meeting, that I didn't get an email to say that this subject would be on the agenda, much like I didn't get one for this meeting either. I've gotten one for every other event in town except for those last two, strangely.
Clerk, I would like to, because it does concern me when these allegations are brought up, if you can look up the email that was sent and make sure that he was on that email list, the email blast that people request to be on the email blast, and I think I've seen
All right, for 3 years I've been on the list.
And those are the only two that I haven't received.
And I checked and I don't know why he didn't receive them.
Is his name on there?
He is on the list.
Okay.
Yeah, it's weird, huh?
Yeah.
No. Where was I?
Yeah. Okay.
I do find the issues that I'm trying to raise very significant. Yes, so it was regarding the last meeting. I'm sorry, I guess I'm going to just not be able to continue. Well, I'm trying to remember exactly what the issue was. It had to do with perhaps something you had said earlier, that with the studies, as you had said, that you want actual factual information. And that is how decisions are made. So there's a survey, but the survey is only a survey. At the last problem that we had, we made a petition, printed several of them, and went all over town. We got 300 signatures from citizens supporting arts and crafts shows. Primarily, they were focusing on our show and shows, Memorial Day and Labor Day. And then I went with the same petition, but targeted businesses, and I spent a half a day, and we had 53 signatures. We provided it to the town council. A member of the town council said, it's also on DVD. I have the quote here somewhere, but he said, well, these things don't really matter. And so it was never taken seriously that there were 300 people who signed a petition that supported Blue Sky's production and the Memorial Day and Labor Day shows in Kit Carson Park. And 53 businesses separately signed another petition. Now, I didn't go to make it a legal petition. We just printed it up because we didn't know there was such a thing as a legal petition. I consider that when surveys are done, when these kinds of things are done, they aren't exactly accurate. They're a sense. And then it's also, what is the impression? You're not asking for facts. Do these affect your business? You're asking, do you believe they affect your business? Well, why don't we just go with facts? Check the gross receipts taxes. And the only real way you can do that is to get the businesses to voluntarily present them to you. Those days of these shows that they feel that their business is being interfered with, they're the only ones that could actually know that. The state doesn't know it. We can't know it. It's all going to be impression anyway. Anyway, that's basically about the best I can give you. Thanks for bearing with me.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Does anyone like to speak under this item? Ma'am, welcome to our meeting. Okay. And just please state your name for the record.
My name is Kim Van Diemen, and thank you for letting me speak. I'm the general manager at Taos Mountain Outfitters on the plaza, and I would like to say that I want to recommend that the arts and craft fairs are kept on the plaza. They positively affect our business. Every time something is happening on the plaza, our store is busier than it normally would be. And as the last gentleman said, locals and visitors alike enjoy coming to the plaza. And when the plaza is alive and there's something happening on the plaza, people want to be there. Our store stays open at night, and we also open early during the day. And I can't tell you how many people come in and say thank you for being open. So it's important that we make the plaza a fun place to be. And that's for everyone. And I also think that competition builds strong business. And if someone is afraid that an arts and crafts show is interfering with their business negatively, maybe they need to take a look at their business plan. But that's it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for your comments. Thank you.
Excuse me,
Councilmember
ma'am.
Silva?
Ma'am.
Councilmember Silva?
Could you please stay seated?
I'm sorry?
Could you please stay seated for a minute? Can I get what did you say the name of your business was again?
Taos Mountain Outfitters.
Okay. What kind of products do you sell?
Outdoor gear, apparel, accessories.
Do you ever see any of these crafts fair booths selling anything that directly competes with your products?
Some of the booths have clothing and things, but I mean, we don't sell pottery, we don't sell jewelry.
Right. I've been to some of these craft fairs and I haven't seen those. And so I just wanted to ask that question, and I probably have a question for you a little later on also.
Okay.
I'd like to hear from a few other
Okay.
people.
Thank you.
Okay, thank
Thank
you.
you.
Anyone else like to speak under this item? Ma'am, welcome to our meeting. And just please state your name for the record.
I'm Vicki McFadden, and I am a partner with Blue Skies Productions. And something I wanted to say is just remembering how the arts and crafts fairs got started. And this is over some 25 years ago when owner of the Taos Inn, Feeney Lipscomb, who is no longer with us, unfortunately, she was trying to find a way to entice people to come to Taos earlier in the season. Because for any of you who have been here for a long period of time, you'll know that we did not have tourists during Memorial Day weekend. People didn't come to Taos until the end of June. And so what Feeney did was she started that arts and crafts show on the plaza Memorial Day weekend, and I was there with her and participated and have been participating ever since. And so what she did actually worked. She wanted to fill up her rooms, and she filled them. And she advertised and kept advertising. And that is how Memorial Day weekend, you know, just, it was a really positive thing for the town. So, of course, I feel very strongly about it, and I feel, gee, over all these years, why take it away? It brings money into the community. We pay for services in the community, in our town, so, you know, we're helping in that way. We advertise with the newspapers. We have security. We pay for food and drink for the artists. We do all sorts of things where the money is right here in the community, not to mention the hotel rooms. And when artists make money, just like anyone else, they spend money. Of course, there's always gas at the gas stations, food for their families. And also, this is their business. Of course, it's not behind closed doors. It's on the street, and it's hard work. But they too have bills to pay and children to take care of. So I just, of course, I'm hoping that you will take this into consideration and not discontinue. Well, Memorial Day weekend show has been discontinued. So in the sense, I'm actually asking you at this time if we could bring that back. So if that can happen somehow, whether it's on the plaza or in Kit Carson Park, I know I would be grateful, and so would so many other artists. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Anyone else like to speak under this item? Ma'am, welcome. Please state your name for the record, please. Welcome to our meeting.
Hello. Ronnie Malanga, Art Wears Contemporary Jewelry, Taos Plaza. The question is, I've been a merchant for 35 years in the plaza, and my question is to Blue Sky as well as CAV. What is it that they're trying to achieve from the plaza? That's the question. What is it that they fight for not going to Kit Carson Park? It's my biggest question tonight. I'm representing myself, and I'm representing the fellow merchants who are recommending a change in the venue for moving the arts and crafts fairs from the Taos Plaza. The Wool Festival is our prime, probably, example of what is really, really working at that location, at the park. It allows for bathrooms, it allows for parking, and I think the most important is the space value that the park offers. The tourists, they're going to find themselves, if you create the synergy back at the park, so that they know to go back to the park each time, and it creates a home for them, that the flow will be distributed throughout the town of Taos. And this is just the example, I think, of what the Wool Festival has already done in the past for us and how it works. So I'm advocating that we create a home for the crafts fairs. The one thing I would like to ask the council, and this is, I think, the most important, is we're getting to get approval for the plaza usage hasn't really come to a consensus. And I think that the council and the mayor and the manager need to come up with a solution so that it's not based on one supervisor's department. And I think we all need to have approval from the council. That's what I have to say.
Okay, thank you. Councilmember Silva.
Ms. Malanga.
Ms. Malanga, Ronnie?
I'm going to ask the same question as I did of Kim, and that is, for the record, state the name of your business and what kind of products you sell.
Art Wears Contemporary Jewelry, and I sell jewelry.
And do you find with some of these booths at arts and crafts fairs, do they directly compete with your business?
Oh, absolutely. They're probably 90% of what they sell out there is related to what I sell.
Thank you.
It's direct competition.
Thank you.
Okay. Anyone else like to speak at this time?
Since Ronnie asked.
Okay, I'm gonna allow a real brief rebuttal because it's clear to me that whatever she says you won't agree, and whatever you say she's not going to agree. So,
No,
so let's just be real brief.
As far as jewelry is concerned, we have about, at the maximum we have ever had is 25% of our booths jewelry. I make jewelry. I know what it's like to be in a show that's got too much of one product. We reject jewelers. We actually tell people if they've got jewelry, it's too late. Don't apply. We don't even want your fee because we charge $15 for an application fee. We turn that down. We just say, don't apply. We have too much jewelry. Sure. Now, I don't mean to say that other people don't do it, but let me just, her bringing us up was our choice of the park or the plaza. I chose the park. One year we did it in the plaza. From that point on, we went to the park. It was the town council that decided that we couldn't have our shows that we had developed over, 20 years. I would love the opportunity to continue, but I also still feel, and please don't get me wrong, that we're not the only people that use the plaza, and I feel that the plaza is a very important social center, and that the arts and crafts shows that go on there, whether it's ours or somebody else's, are very important in the town of Elstown.
Okay. Councilmember Peralta, Mr. Madden?
Mr. Madden, I have a quick question for you.
Yes.
Make sure that I understand you right. Are you saying then that you would be okay with using Kit Carson Park for Memorial Day or Labor Day and skip the plaza?
Always. Also, we promote 2 shows a year, one in June and one in October. And the one in June is in Kit Carson Park. It never even occurred to me to ask for the plaza for that weekend. And that's like the last year was like the 8th and 9th of June.
So if the plaza was totally off limits to arts and crafts fairs, that's okay with you?
It's, well, I feel for our company, we would be happy to be in Kit Carson Park. As a participant, I love being in a park setting as an artist. However, for the CAV, who also has been in the plaza, I think that it works very well for them, and I think that also works very well for the community. It brings local people to the plaza, which is, I think, really important to get our town working that way.
But from your perspective as running an arts and crafts fair,
I like the park.
That you feel that you can get value out of being in the park?
Oh, yes.
Thank you.
Okay. Anyone else like to speak on this item? Sir, welcome to our meeting. And state your name for the record.
Mr. Mayor, council members, my name is Jalmar Bowden. For the past, since 1999, I organized the first craft festival for the CAV. It had been happening before that, but I took over that festival on the plaza. It was on the plaza at the time. August, the one that just was last weekend. And the following year, we took over the one they had in the park, which was also a very nice venue for Arts and Crafts Festival. We tried to have entertainment there to help that be a good venue. It was. It had a different flavor. The CAV show had more of the Santa Fe flavor. It brought, we had a different kind of artist who wanted to be in the plaza. They were higher end. We had a more folksy kind of artists that wanted to be in the plaza. So, I mean, that wanted to be in the park shows. And we, like I said, we had entertainment. A few years ago, there was some stress about the Arts and Crafts Festivals, which was the time when the holiday shows that Blue Skies Production did a great job of, that were in the park, were eliminated from that weekend because of stress over sales by merchants in town who were concerned that they were losing business to the craft festivals. Along with that, they also asked that the craft festivals be moved from the front of Kit Carson Park to the rear, at which point pretty wholesale my artists stopped signing up for the show in July. And so I went to the town and asked, and there was no reason why anyone should deny it. They allowed that July 4th weekend show to move to the plaza, and it has since thrived. So the park can be a great place if you don't try to punish the craft festival for existing and put them in the back of the park where they can't be seen. And it was a time of stress economically, so I can understand what happened. But to move on, this year we were approached at the CAV by Tom Wheeler and John Hamilton, who asked us with the Lions Club to start another show, and the location was the plaza. Right off the bat, it was successful. Part of it was the publicity that I try to generate from outside of town to get people, at least locally, to come to Taos on that weekend because there's a craft festival. I get PSAs through many radio stations. Darren's radio stations cooperate well with me in that manner, as do many others. So I think that we do a good job of getting people from neighboring counties, neighboring states to come that weekend. And even if they're driving, they tend to stop because they hear about the show on the radio. So we make a concerted effort to get people to come to town. And we do compete with some of the stores on the plaza. And a jewelry store would certainly, and many of the stores do sell jewelry, they would certainly be affected by our shows. And I would like to reach out a hand from the CAV shows and see if there is something that we can do to minimize that. Like Jody just mentioned, in the jewelry trades, we try to make sure that the jeweler is the person there selling. And many times we're hoodwinked. It's not. It's a relative or it's a friend, and they're doing 2 or 3 shows and they're making jewelry, or somebody else is making jewelry. But we try to limit it that the artist is there, and I hope that helps. If one person came to the last show who won't be back because that was the case. But I have suggested to plaza merchants that perhaps they could step out onto their sidewalks, have something going on. And they tell me that there's a town ordinance that you can't have a sidewalk sale. So that could be one thing to look at. Perhaps that could be changed for weekends of plaza shows so that it becomes more festive and it opens up and people go in and out of the galleries and the shops. But I think that perhaps with guidance of the Arts and Cultural District, we can expand them, get more cultural events there. It has been my intention from the beginning to get cultural events. I've worked for it, but they haven't come forth from the community, and there's not funds from a craft festival to pay entertainers all day long. So I don't have any easy answers, and I thank you for the time here. I would like for the CAV shows to continue. I think they do a great service to the community, providing funds for that organization. And I believe that our new show, spearheaded by Tom Wheeler and John Hamilton, around other events, is very important for an early start to the season, our Lilac Festival. So I look forward to that continuing on Taos Plaza along with our others. So thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you very much. Any comments? If not, is there anyone else that would like to speak in the audience at this time? Seeing none, I will close. Well, it was not a public hearing, just the comments. Councilmember Silva.
I want to first say that I'm not opposed to arts and crafts fairs. And we all have to live in a community and thrive in a community. And so I think that our job up here is to try to figure out the solution. So earlier I had mentioned that I have a question. And this is mainly for the 2 promoters that are here, and that's Blue Sky and Jalmar. I'm not sure what you call your company. But so I have just a quick little question for you. And that is, if we allowed, we do allow at the park a crafts fair. But let's just say that we put one of the promoters towards the back of the park, okay? And you're set up for the weekend. All of a sudden, you get another promoter, because the town let them, come in and set up right in front of you on the front of the park. How would you feel?
That
right.
would not be good.
That would not be good, correct? Right. I kind of view that the same way as having these arts and crafts fairs on the plaza, because of the direct competition. And the only reason I pointed that out to you the way I did is just so you can understand how the merchants must feel.
I have
So,
something to add to what you said.
well, let me speak, man.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to point that out. I heard somebody say that the plaza is an important social center for our community, and I totally agree. but not at the detriment or at the expense of the merchants who have rent or are paying on some property they bought, okay, and have fixed cost power, water, other utilities associated with that. I view that as a business person in this community, and I think that anybody in business in a community would feel the same way, and that is I don't like it when competition comes in and takes work that I can, or even my competitors that are from here can do. And so I take offense to that, and we try really hard to keep that from happening, but it still does, but it upsets us, and it hurts us. So with that respect, I have to think about, even after viewing these surveys, I have to think about the merchants. And again, I'm going to say it again, I'm not opposed to craft fairs, and with regards to the Memorial and Labor Day, I don't even know why we did away with those, really, to be honest with you. I'm not sure. I'd rethink that. But I also would say that with the arts and crafts fairs at the park, I see nothing wrong with them up against the road instead of the back. And so with those comments, I think that would end up treating everybody as fairly as we possibly can and giving you the tools to succeed in doing what you do. And that's all I have, Mr. Mayor.
Okay. Thank you. Councilmember Gonzalez.
And I guess for me, I echo a lot of the same sentiments as Councilmember Silva. And again, you know, I wholeheartedly agree with the comment that competition is good. It helps businesses become more effective, and it helps them become more efficient at what they do if that competition is on a level playing field. And I say that with regards to the fact that Councilmember Silva pointed out that every plaza merchant that is in there has a fixed cost. Now, that fixed cost is rent or it's a mortgage. And they don't come at a cheap price. So I think the feeling that has been echoed across the board from a lot of the plaza merchants is that with regards to what is spent in just to open the doors every day doesn't even come close to what the offset is into what somebody at a crafts fair would pay for a booth space. So, I mean, they're there day in, day out, and, you know, honestly, their hardcore heart of their business is those weekends, and to have a direct competitor with something that you sell, I can totally see the detriment. And, you know, so for me, I too agree that why they were ever taken out as far as the Memorial Day weekend, I think they should be reinstated. I am wholeheartedly in support of opening that park at any time to any event in the front. That moves it off the retail spaces of the plaza. And again, I think we make a good mesh between the two that, you know, arts and crafts fairs can thrive. They'll just thrive in a different location and not off the viability of the plaza merchants who spend the hard cash to keep those doors open year-round. The one other thing that, you know, I guess I would like to say is that, you know, when we talk about paying for services as far as regards to bands and you know, whatnot, that's the whole atmosphere that we've tried to create within the plaza. And that's with regards to, you know, we've had even liquor license come to us for part-time liquor vending sales that we've turned away for the simple fact that there are establishments within the plaza that rely on that Thursday night business to fuel their sales as well. So it's not like it's a single out of arts and crafts fairs. We have to walk a very sensitive line to each and every one of the constituents, both based on the arts and crafts fairs and the sensitivity to the merchants that we have to give also. So again, I completely support 100% of reopening Kit Carson Park to arts and crafts fairs and allowing them to take place there at any time, any weekend. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Okay. Any comments, questions? If not, what is the Councilmember Abeyta?
Thank you, Mayor. You know, 2.5 years ago, exactly on 26 January of 2011, the Town Council unanimously approved this resolution 11-06. In that resolution, we restricted arts and crafts fairs on Memorial Day and Labor Day, both in the plaza and at Kit Carson Park. After further evaluation, maybe the solution today is to allow arts and crafts fairs to occur at Kit Carson Park 365 days out of the year, if that's what people want, and to ban arts and crafts fairs in the plaza 365 days out of the year. Right now, they're not allowed on Memorial Day and Labor Day, but again, the rationale for that is if you're a business that operates in the plaza with hard costs, from rent to lease to mortgage to payroll, it's not fair to those folks to allow an arts and crafts fair or any other venue that comes in and pays a very small fee to take their storefront right out from under them. So I heard several of you say, hey, having all these arts and crafts fairs in the park would be fine as long as they're not in the back and as long as we don't restrict Memorial Day or Labor Day. So, Mr. Mayor, it sounds to me like the viable solution is what I just stated.
Okay. Any other comments, questions? Councilmember Peralta.
Mr. Mayor, I agree with the conversations that the council is having so far. I don't have in front of me a possible amendment to the resolution of 2011, but I think we have a fairly good consensus for the amendment to it. However, I'm going to ask a question because I just don't quite understand this one, because if we're trying to do other events on the plaza, would it be a bad thing to have a concert on the plaza that's charged? This resolution in 2011 would not let that happen. It's not just arts and crafts fair, but it's anything that has a charge related to it would not be allowed on the plaza.
Commercial activity, yeah.
Yeah, commercial activity. So what I'm getting at is you're almost banning carts, but we're not banning carts because we're allowing those. So I'm not going there. But I'm just saying is that, let's say, for example, somebody wanted to bring Mumford & Sons to the plaza and have that on that venue rather than at the park. No, I'm just kidding. Not anything that big, but I'm just saying we're talking about trying to have cultural events and stuff on the plaza, and there might be, a reasonableness to allowing that to happen, even if there is a charge for it, as long as it isn't a type of business that is selling a product. What am I trying to say? A physical product. So I'm just looking at the saying and saying, for now, I think we could ban everything that has an admission fee or a booth fee on the plaza, but I think it's something that in the future we may want to go back and look at and see if there isn't some way that in order to have the type of things that bring people to the plaza that will participate in the businesses that are there and support those businesses and that might have a slight fee to it, something that we may consider in the future. I'm not asking for that now, but it's just some food for thought. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Okay. I think we've closed the comment section, but unless the council member would like to hear from any member of the audience, because if not, we can be here all day discussing the options. So I'll just let you, real brief, if you could just be real brief.
Very briefly, I want to caution the council to not forget the words of one merchant who did not compete directly with the craft festivals, and what she described as her business figures from the weekends of the craft festivals is quite a bit better. And recognize that when I told you I worked very hard to get people to come to Taos those weekends to go to the park, you may or may not go to the plaza. And I'm not totally against moving my shows to the park, but with respect to the merchants at the plaza, I would ask the council to consider doing something with the chili line or some form of transportation on those weekends so that people easily move around town once they've gotten out of their car. Get them to the plaza, get them to Benn Street. I know it's not far, but not everybody's going to do that. Not everyone's healthy enough to walk that far. And don't jump to the conclusion. Our jewelry representative here is one of the few stores that operates very much with a closed door and not a very inviting presence for good reason. She has things of high value, and she's trying to create that aura around her artwares, and that's very good. But the stores that have the open front and the inviting presence. They do a great business on the weekends that we're in the plaza.
Okay. Okay. Thank you. I'd like to close the comment because it's it's already getting late and it's not a public hearing, so we can go on and on with this. So I'd like to see if there's any other comments with the council and see where the council wants to go with this. Councilmember Abeyta.
Mr. Mayor, I move to approve to amend Resolution 11-6 that would allow arts and crafts fairs to occur at Kit Carson Park 365 days out of the year, but on the converse would restrict arts and crafts fairs in the plaza 365 days out of the year.
Okay.
And yes, and I got no problem with the arts and crafts fairs in Kit Carson Park not being restricted to the back. In other words, they can be in the front all the time.
Okay.
I'll second that motion, Mr. Mayor.
Motion and a second. Under discussion?
One at a time, of course, We're not going to want to stack one in the front and one in the back, and so that's fine, too.
Under discussion, it appears to me that we have the old resolution. I think there's some clear direction here, but can we, do we have to have a revised, because this one has 2011 dates on there. I think it would be best to have a revised one that the council can approve since there's clear direction. At the 6th meeting.
I think that the resolution 1106 originally anticipated that council would annually set dates for events, so I don't have any problem with a new resolution tonight that sets those dates pursuant to the direction from the 1106.
So can we legally approve one that we don't have in front of us based on council direction, amending it as stated by Councilmember Abeyta?
Well, yeah, this was voted on, as Councilman Abeyta said, this was passed 26 January 2011, and Section 3 says that the town council will annually set the calendar for the withholding of issuance of permits and licenses for commercial events, and I think that's what the resolution attempted to do, although someone was talking at me and I did not hear what the resolution was. But assuming that the resolution is setting the dates, that's appropriate under this and anticipated by it, as a matter of fact.
Okay. Councilmember Silva.
The only thing with that is the second whereas talks about the town council encourages the use of Kit Carson Park and Taos Plaza, and the motion was to allow Kit Carson Park to be used for arts and crafts fairs, but to eliminate the use of the crafts fairs on the plaza. Is that correct, Councilman Abeyta?
That's correct. With the arts and crafts fairs at Kit Carson Park occurring anywhere in the park that the developer so desires.
My point is it's affecting more than just dates.
Okay. Any other comments, questions? If not, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye. Aye.
Those opposed, motion carries. Okay, thank you all for your participation. Thank you for coming here. Thank you. Did you have a brief question? Or?
We have the plaza rented for October.
Yes. The ones that are scheduled now are on.
All right.
And no further. So I believe the direction from council is no further
new
issuance of permits going forward. Okay. Okay. Thank you. Okay. Next, we will go to item C: consideration and possible approval of Resolution 1339, emphasizing the mayor and council's commitment to maintain civility in the conduct of public business. This comes from the conference that we attended. Councilor Gonzalez asked to have this on the agenda. I think that this is a perfect time, when council members get along and respect each other, that we have that unified commitment to continue doing so. And this is something that is recommended by the NALEO, National Association of Latino Elected Officials, that we implement just kind of as a commitment to each other and to our citizens, that we will maintain that. And Councilmember Gonzalez, if you want to add some additional comments, or if you'd like to read the resolution.
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, I can read the resolution, but one of the main reasonings behind this was because we saw the extreme disruptive nature of what in-house counsel blatant fighting does. And I think it showed how harmful it was to the community, and that was really a 2-year lack of progress just because of one side or the other not being able to get along. And what the civility pledge is that, at the end of the day, while we may disagree within the open meeting, at the end of the day, we can still respect each other as individuals and move forward, gracefully within the community. So the resolution reads, Resolution 13-39, a resolution of the Mayor and Town Council of the Town of Taos emphasizing their commitment to maintain civility in the conduct of the public's business. Whereas our town officials are the elected leaders closest to the people, and whereas our elected officials are thus in unique position of having a positive impact on behavior both individually and collectively, and to lead by example, and whereas, as a cornerstone of democracy, Americans have observed certain rules of behavior generally known as civility, and whereas civility can assist in reaching consensus on diverse issues, allows for mutually respectful ongoing relationships, can uplift our daily life, and make it more pleasant to live in an organized society. And whereas displays of anger, rudeness, ridicule, impatience, lack of respect, and personal attacks detract from the open exchange of ideas, prevent fair discussion of the issues, and can discourage individuals from participating in government. And whereas public and political discourse often results in confrontational atmosphere that prevent the development of solid solutions to the problems facing our communities, and whereas civil and honest public discourse can help all individuals face up to the challenges facing their communities, and whereas the Mayor and Town Council commit themselves to building an atmosphere in which each person's opinion is respected and public and political discourse are aimed at confronting the problems facing the community and not at those with whom some disagree. Now, therefore, be it resolved by the governing body of the Town of Taos, Section 1, the foregoing recitals are true and correct. Section 2, the Mayor and Council of the Town of Taos hereby commit themselves to maintain civility in their public and political discourse, and hereby pledge their commitment to the following principles. Respect the rights of all citizens in our community to hold different opinions. Avoid rhetoric intended to humiliate, illegitimize, or question the wisdom of those whose opinions are different from theirs. Strive to understand differing perspectives, choose their words carefully, speak truthfully without accusation and avoid distortion, and speak out against violence, prejudice, and incivility in all their forms, whenever and wherever they may occur. Section 3. The Mayor and Town Council hereby further pledge to exhibit and encourage the kinds of personnel qualities that are emblematic of predominant our community and society in general. Gratitude, humility, openness, passion for service to others, propriety, kindness, honesty, caring, faith, sense of duty, and commitment to doing what is right. Section 4, the town clerk is hereby directed and authorized to send a copy of this resolution to William Fulgenetti, Executive Director of the New Mexico Municipal League, passed and adopted and approved this 13th day of August, 2013.
Okay. Thank you, Councilmember Gonzalez. Any comments, questions?
Mr. Mayor.
Councilmember Silva.
I totally support this. I'd also like to add that whoever makes the motion, if they can perhaps maybe make it with additional language that states that perhaps this resolution should be visited after every election or any appointment of a new body. I think it would be good just to kind of be reminded of this resolution and this commitment.
Yeah, I would say a section in that that could just simply state that the Mayor and Council encourage after every election this resolution is presented.
Might be appropriate at the organizational meeting as part of that agenda. That would bring it up after every election by definition.
Right. Sure. Right. Any other comments, questions?
Take public comment?
Since I allowed I allowed that there would be comments on any agenda item, I will give you that.
Well, thank you. I just have a couple words to add. I didn't know where this resolution was all about, but anyway, I like the idea of it. I know that the purpose of these meetings is to take, among other things, to take comment from the public, and I like to make comments as other people do. And if we speak harshly to you, that's just something you're going to have to take as big boys, and I wish you would recognize that. And if you're too weak-skinned to take comments from the public, then maybe you should look for employment elsewhere. On the other hand, you have no right to attack the public. particularly Councilor Beta is into that, and that's not necessary. I don't come into these meetings, nor does anyone else, to be attacked by the people sitting in front of me. You're paid public employees and among other things, you're paid to listen to what the public has to say, and to be publicly humiliated in this body is not at all appropriate. But I do congratulate you on apparently your positive attitude toward passing this resolution. Thank you.
Okay, and Mr. Northrup, I would, with all respect, ask you to follow what you're just asking in your own comments. Your derogatory comments that I have witnessed in your emails, I would just ask you that you reconsider your words as this resolution says as well.
I don't think this resolution has anything to do with public comments. The town is doing everything it can to shut down what I want to say, and I'm certainly not going to pull any punches with my emails that I feel are coming and well deserved. You're getting me off the street. Taos News has no interest in what I have to say. My outlets are limited.
Okay. Thank you,
Mr. Mayor. Thanks. You can go.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, my comments tonight weren't an attack. They were based on facts. And just like anyone in this audience can give comments, I have the right to do the same. So I will not be denied my First Amendment right because one individual says that I'm attacking somebody. And I'm talking to you, Mr. Northrup.
Okay.
Mr. Mayor.
Councilmember Silva.
Just a quick comment. I was elected to serve the people, but not be the punching bag for the people. So I just want to make this comment. It's a general comment. It's not directed to you, Mr. Northrup. But I treat people with respect, and I think you've witnessed that. And I live by the golden rule. So I know you have been up here, Mr. Northrup, and this is directed to you. I know you've been up here and you've generalized. I'm not asking you to come up and speak. Just listen, please. There's been a few times that you come up and just generalize, and I, for one, don't appreciate that. Some of the claims you have made are not true. And so, again, I will continue to treat you with respect, but please live by the golden rule, and believe me, your life will be much more pleasant. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. No, Mr. Northrup, we're not going to be taking any more comments. Mr. Northrup, nobody interrupts you when you're speaking. You are a bully when you speak, and you like to do that. And unless a council member wants a response, and I will afford that to them. He's not asking that. Sir, if you can have some brief comments.
Yes, Your Honor, I was wondering if this resolution not only just goes with the council, but to every employee of the town of Taos. Because since I've been here since 1998, I have been accused with dematism, and that is a form of racism, even though my family's been in this county for over 400 years.
Okay.
And I'm just wondering that this resolution will go to every employee of the town of Taos.
Well, and I think that there's internal policies for employees on how their demeanor is and their interactions. So I would ask our manager, since you brought that up, to just revisit that and make sure it's in harmony of what we're preaching here on this resolution.
I believe it's great.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. Thank you for those comments.
Thank you.
Okay. What is the pleasure of the council?
Move for approval, Mr. Mayor.
Second. Motion and second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion carries. Thank you, Councilmember Gonzalez. Next, we go to Open Meetings Act in relation to the town's talks with county, discussion of the town's position with regard to the Open Meetings Act of the application talks with the county over E911. Brian? Oscar?
Mr. Mayor, I don't need to belabor this. The council has the memorandum. The concern from the town attorney's office was a newspaper article that indicated that there had been some polling relative to how the council would vote regarding something, and the town attorney's office was unaware that there was any proposal upon which to vote, and it was our understanding that the council had unanimously agreed to relocate the dispatch center, and that we wanted to use this opportunity to set the record straight as to whether in fact there was discussion between and among counselors about changing the vote to relocate the 911, the dispatch, or whether the news media report was just perhaps an improvident use of language. So it's just a matter of setting the record straight. If the council was discussing some alternative to vote on, leading to a final action, then that should be talked about here. And if the council was not holding those discussions leading to a final action, then in order to save grief down the road in the form of potential litigation, I'd like to just clear that up. So that's all there is to it. It's just a matter of setting the record straight as to whether council was having in private discussions about some vote relative to changing the town's public position on E911.
Okay. And the direction that was given to the manager and myself is to continue the talks with the county. Council members sometimes would call me and say, how's the talks going? Look, I'm sending a letter. This is what's in the letter. It will be contingent on subject to council approval. That's the limitation of my conversations. Of course, council members would let me know that, well, what is the JPA? Is there a JPA that reflects what you're offering? Has that proposed yet? No, that's not even in the making. It's just completely just a letter that I'm sending out in hopes to see exactly where does the county start and what's their position. But there was never any finalized document that we were going to vote on or modified document. I never modified my offer to the county based on their inquiry as to how the negotiations were going with the county. Council members, any comments, questions? Councilmember Peralta.
Mr. Mayor, I guess I can't remember whether I was asked if I could vote, but I think it might have been, would you support the negotiation letter that the mayor was giving to the county? And the answer was, yes, I can support that. Now, if the newspaper turns around and says that I would vote in favor of it, that's their opinion. But to say from my personal opinion, and it wasn't any discussion I had with any council members, it was just my personal opinion, that I felt it was a good, viable negotiation offer to the county. That's all I was making my opinion on. But it had nothing to do with any discussions that I had other than with the mayor and him presenting it to me as something he wanted to present to the county.
Mr. Mayor and Council, I appreciate that very much. Unless some councilor has some other information, the town attorney's office is very happy with that public explanation, and I suspect that it may save us lots of money down the road. This is a highly controversial event. Did not want to get involved in protracted litigation over the perhaps improvident use of a word vote in a newspaper article, and I appreciate Councilman Peralta's explanation as to one of the possible reasons for that. So as far as the town attorney's office is concerned, I thank you all. We don't need to do anything else about this.
Councilmember Silk.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I too want to go on the record to say that just the way Councilman Peralta explained it is the situation that my conversation took place, and that was with Matt Van Buren with Taos News. I also want to go on record to say that I have never, ever participated with any other councilman asking them, nor them asking me, how I was going to vote on any issue. That just doesn't happen here. I just want to make sure and make that very, very clear for the Taos News.
I do want to disclose something, though, that we may have violated the Open Meetings Act the other day, though. And I disclosed it at the meeting because a couple of councilors, I think 3 councilors, called me and asked me, or texted me and asked me if the formal dress was casual or suits. And we did come up to a consensus that it was going to be casual, so we did, I guess, inadvertently vote to make it casual. So. But, I just,
I think we can live with that one, Mr. Mayor.
So anyway,
I think we should vote to make it always casual.
make it always casual. Okay.
I like dressing up. Mr. Mayor, if I could just say one thing too, with regards to the Brian, with regards to the newspaper article, I know it said that the council members had been polled, and I don't know if they were talking in general consensus, but the one thing that JR and I never actually had a conversation. We exchanged voicemails, but never to the extent of actually what he was calling for. So even all that aside, you know, with regards to it, I've never been polled to by any one of my peers to say, you know, will you support, can you vote, or will you vote? I've always, and trust me when I say this, every Naleo event that I've ever attended with regards to leadership, even along the lines of the Municipal League and Leadership New Mexico, always stress the need for transparency and openness and to conduct business in the public eye and not behind a closed door, not with what they would consider a rolling quorum and whatnot. And you read constant intercessions with technology today with regards to email and text messaging and the use of cell phones. And you know, for me, it's just not something that you know I can physically do, because at the last minute I may change my mind, and you know, for me, that's where I think bridges start getting burned and amongst the public, and that's something that I value highly, because they're the individuals that put me in this seat. And I vowed when I got elected that I would do the very best job that I can do, and that I would do it with their full and open encouragement.
And you know, along those lines, I know we don't want to belabor this, but you know, I get calls from counselors all the time, getting calls from their constituents, wondering what's the status on this grant, or what's the status on the improvements of this road, and stuff like that. So you know, that's part of my job, giving them updates, you know, when they can't get a hold of the manager, if he's in meetings or what have you, or sometimes a counselor will say, I'm getting a constituent that wants to perhaps change an ordinance. There was many individuals, for example, of the Crass Fair, that asked specifically, I'd like to see this on the on an agenda for full discussion. So those conversations do happen, but never are, well, are you supporting this or are you not supporting it? But there is plenty of times where I get calls from a council member because of a concern and says, well, I'd like to see this discussed, so potentially to change policy or modify policy. And that's how things get on the agenda. The constituents integrate and converse with their elected officials. They converse with me. It gets on the agenda for full discussion and a vote in the open meeting. So,
well, I'm very confident that the town fulfills its responsibilities under the Open Meetings Act, excuse me, and the Inspection of Public Records Act. Part of my job is to try to identify potential threats and keep us out of litigation where I can. And I believe that tonight's discussion is extremely helpful in doing that. And I thank the mayor and council for taking the time to do it and express their thoughts in establishing a record here tonight. Thank you.
okay. Thank you. Thank you. Anything else from the council members? It's late already, and but considering the lengthy agenda, we're doing pretty good. Move to adjourn. Is there a second?
Second.
And a second?
Discussion.
Let me.
Fine. I'll wait till next time.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, is it just a public comment?
No, it doesn't. It'll wait. It'll wait.
Yeah.
It'll wait. It'll wait.
Okay.
Didn't get under the wire there.
Yeah.